do a mic.
Three, check one, two, three. Can everybody hear me and the crowd in the chat? Yeah, super excited to talk about these topics and the future of Web3 for sure. And I saw Robbie's tweet from Immutable X. He's one of the co-founders. He even mentioned just this morning earlier that they signed like 5 game projects, and he is forecasting that there's going to be hundreds of more games coming to obviously Web3. And yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how like the macro plays out. But yeah, as they all kind of say, is the rising tides raises all ships. So that's what I'm kind of looking for in the whole ecosystem and what's going on today in Web3. And yeah, super excited to have everybody on. Let me know. It says, yep, Kyle is loud and clear. Let's go. Let's get it.
Progress has been made.
So now that they can hear you, you want to repeat your security your phrase or no?
Yeah, my seed phrase is TSG Scoria. Was it like? It's usually like hat, squirrel, beta, or something. I don't know. All these weird random string words. But okay, Scoriac said smooth. So we're coming in nice and hot. Make sure you gift a sub to Arcade. Come on, baby, let's go. I know I gifted a sub here to the channel, so you may as well, especially if you have Amazon Prime. Come on now, let's share the love.
Ooh, and it was just Prime Day a couple weeks ago too, right?
Yeah.
I'm living in Ecuador right now, man. I don't have Amazon Prime. It's like the most saddest thing in the world. And for Amazon to deliver to Ecuador, it's like $100 for shipping. So it's tough times out here. But let's kick it off. I mean, let's just while we try to wait for this guest, I think I think what the first topic I had was at least accessibility, right? I think we have these mega giants like Illuvium and Star Atlas. And one of the things that I'm concerned about is definitely accessibility, right? I think the quality of these both games are AAA, and so with that said, I think it's going to require for things like this not to happen, right? Where we can't stream because of CPU overload, and so with kind of those things said, I mean, what's your thoughts?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm just excited to be here early, to be honest. I think everybody can kind of echo the same thing here in the chat, is like we're so early in term the games aren't even launched, right, at the end of the day. And so it's just interesting to see where we're at, but where we're going in the future too. So not only in terms of just founders, co-founders, like a couple games, like I think just in the future there's going to be so many games that there's just going to be so much to talk about. And it's going to be interesting to see the community grow as well, and kind of where that goes. Because I think we have just being here so early, being a pioneer, I think we have a big say in kind of the narrative of Web3 gaming. So I think it's important to, kind of bring everybody to the fold and lift each other up and build a solid community around it. And instead, not have mainstream kind of look in and be like, I don't know if I want to get into that crowd. I don't know if I want to get into Web3 gaming. I've seen a lot of stuff over there. So I want it to be, at least from my opinion, is have mainstream look in, reporters look in, and get really excited about what's going on over here. So.
Yeah, and with that said, right, like in order for mainstream to look at us, I mean, we don't need to create FUD, right? That's the last thing we want to create. And hopefully today we don't create any of that FUD. And hopefully mainstream looks at this and says, wow, these guys got 2 of the biggest games on one platform. And yeah, maybe like, sure, I don't expect anybody to be friends, right? Especially in the space, like in the sense of like the competition. But I do expect it to be like, wow, these guys got on stage and they talked about like, hey, this is what I'm having an obstacle with, or this is what GameFi needs, or how are we going to get to mass adoption? Please, Illuvium and Star Atlas, tell us how you're going to get to mass adoption and how the community can help you, right? Because I think, crypto community is strong, GameFi community is super, super strong. The last thing we need is to be on different pages. We need to be on the same page. So I agree. I mean, I think for mainstream, I hope mainstream is going to look at this today and say, yeah, we need to get in. We need to help these guys. Like, let's figure something out. Let's work together. And so, yeah, I'm really excited about today's, I guess you could call it debate, but I look at it different. I hope it's building better Web3 games, and that's what we've kind of titled it, because we want to really build better games and build better communities, and that's what all Arcade's all about. So definitely.
Okay, you can introduction everybody else.
Cool. I think awesome. So now we finally got JP I see TSG and I see Dan. Yep. Okay, cool. Let's start it off. JP, you want to go give it?
Yeah, sounds good. Testing. Let's make sure that everyone can hear me. Again, sorry about the technical difficulties. Technology is never on our side, but it looks like we're finally making some progress. Looking at the stream, looks a lot better. So everybody can hear us and the video is working, then I think we are good to go. But yeah, I'll do a quick intro on myself. My name is JP. I'm the CEO and a co-founder of Arcade. And I guess in one sentence or so, Arcade is essentially a GameFi infrastructure platform that our goal is really to make GameFi more easily accessible, lower the barrier to entry, give people additional resources, help the space as a whole grow. That means supporting guilds, content creators, platforms, aggregators, games themselves, right? And we work with everyone across the board. So really what I hope to see out of this discussion today, like Jorge said, was, I really hope that we have some constructive discussion going on. I hope that it doesn't turn into, an ego contest of just slinging things around. Here in this room right now, we have, Don Kane and Jimmy Hoffa from the Alessio family, and we have TSG, a content creator for Illuvium. And it's like, we're trying to be this bridge that kind of brings people together. Because I think we're all here for the same reason. We're here for the decentralization and bringing the power back into the hands of the gamer, and making sure that we as gamers and crypto enthusiasts have custody of the things that we believe in. So I think we're all here for the same reason. I just hope that we can keep it constructive, and as we have these discussions throughout the day, I think it'll be really interesting to see how Kieran and Michael kind of find common ground.
Yep, thank you, and thank you, JP, for that. TSG, thanks for joining us, man. I know that you've been creating a lot of content for Illuvium lately, so it's been awesome, great to watch you. Tell us, do you want to give us a 10-second intro and tell us what you're really excited about today's debate and what you look forward to in the GameFi space, especially for what you're doing?
No, I'm playing. Yo, can you guys, everyone can hear me, right? Testing. Yeah, no, thank you for that.
Cut TSG, take him out. No, I'm just kidding.
No, thank you for that. Take him out. I'm out. I'm done. No, thank you guys for that intro, man. That was really cool. I'm really first off, I want to say thank you guys for doing this panel and inviting me on. I'm really excited to have this conversation. Yeah, so I've been making content mainly around Illuvium. I do other stuff, but mainly focusing on Illuvium. And the thing that I'm excited for with Web3 gaming is just the new transition into the experience for players. I think that's the thing. Right now, everyone's focusing on the investment side of things, the crypto side of things, but I'm a gamer at heart, so I'm actually really excited for the way we're going to go forward with the gaming side of things. And from what I'm hoping for from today's discussion is I'm huge on collaboration. So I know that this is a debate, but I do hope we kind of work together on some things and we kind of come to a consensus where we're trying to push the entire space forward and not just coming at each other's throats. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. But yeah, let's see if the boxing gloves come out or not.
I asked if you had your boxing gloves earlier. You said you didn't bring them.
Am I muted?
I don't know. You might have to sit in the crowd. But
yeah.
Dan, I can see you now. You want to give a quick intro and tell us a little bit about what you're doing and what you're looking forward today too?
Sure. Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. You said Dan.
I'm sorry.
Dan, Don, it's all the same,
Dan, Don, yeah, I don't really care. Sure, yeah. I mean, I'm the co-founder and leader of the Alessio family gaming guild. We're a mafia-themed gaming guild. The first GameFi crypto game I came across was actually Star Atlas, and I don't know if you guys have. I'm sure you guys have read the white paper for that game. It's pretty in depth, and it got me thinking about what the potential for GameFi and the metaverse and everything that's going to happen in the future. And I think there needs to be a good deal of organization on gamers' parts, especially for a large game like an MMORPG. Because once you get earning into a video game, which I think should be a thing, right? When you think about, okay, well, I played all sorts of video games. I played Call of Duty. I played RuneScape. I've played these games for the past decade. But if I could earn money on all of that time spent. I feel like a lot of gamers, at least even if they're skeptical about crypto, they at least agree with the fact that, look, if there's a safe way for me to earn money playing video games, I'm going to take that option, assuming that the game is just as fun as, all of the other alternatives, such as TSU is talking about. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I think, when I first came across the GameFi industry, I was hooked. I mean, I've been in crypto for a while, and I think that the potential for what's going to be developed is going to be life-changing for a lot of people, especially if they can feed their family playing video games. I mean, imagine a better way, to earn income to feed your family than playing video games. So.
And I love that you just said that, right? Because I'm a big component about what's accessibility for this space, right? And so like we got the two biggest games in GameFi building, right? And then they're AAA quality. And I am concerned about the accessibility to those that are not going to be able to get on that don't have the software or that don't have the computers, right, to be able to play some of these games. So I would love to hear about what that plan is or what that strategy is for mass adoption. And it goes on to this point, Dan, like Don, that I keep saying Dan, by the way, Don, like, it's like, you want this to go out to those countries where this could, the kid's going to be making more money than their family makes in like a week, and he could make it in a day. But how is he going to be able to do that if these games are just such high qualities and require high GPUs? I'll be honest. I mean, I have like a crazy computer here in the office, and JP's going to laugh in a second because my thing freezes every 4 or 5 hours because of all the applications that I'm running, and I'm like playing video games at the same time. So I know for myself, I'm ready. I have to be ready to upgrade. But I definitely I'm in a different position. So I'm excited to listen today to hear like, hey man, like hopefully they talk about like how we're going to create mass adoption and what we're going to create for accessibility, right?
Yeah, and I think too that guilds are going to play a large part in that. I think that you bring up a good point. Like there's going to be gamers all across the world. Some of them aren't going to be able to afford a $4,000 or $5,000 gaming rig to play, to render the entire universe of Star Atlas or Illuvium. I think that guilds are going to play a big part in that, and they're going to be ran as businesses, or at least the most successful ones are. And there's a big deal of scholarships. The scholarship dynamic that we saw with Axie Infinity, I think that's going to grow into something much, much larger, where you have some kid that's proved himself playing some sort of game that you trust, that part of a scholarship would not only be assets in game, but also maybe even potentially a gaming rig for that kid.
Yeah, and so TSG, I'll bring it to you. You're creating a lot of content and stuff like this, and so like mass adoption is a big topic with you, right? As always, trying to get your following bigger and you gaining a bigger crowd. What's your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, I think objectively, like I was just looking up some numbers as you guys were talking right there. Like, so objectively, we know that the number of total gamers in the world is roughly around 3.1 billion, around that 3 billion mark. And it says that, I'm just having a look right now as well, it says that the number of mobile gamers are around 2.5 billion. So let's just like round it down, for the sake of it, let's say 2 billion out of 3 billion are mobile gamers. So if we're really looking for mass adoption, that's definitely the route that we're going to have to go. We're going to have to go into the mobile integration, right? So where we're at right now with Illuvium and Star Atlas is so early, and it's going to take time for mass adoption. I don't know. I'm always pretty conservative on it. I know in crypto there's a lot of bulls that are like, yo, we're going to get it next year. I just think that we need to be objective about these things, and big changes like this take time, right? So for me, I think the biggest hurdle that we're going to have to cross is accessibility, like you say. And I think the biggest thing for accessibility is going to be being able to play it on mobile, having access to these games, these high quality AAA games on mobiles or tablets, things like that. I think that's something that we all need to consider a lot. That's my opinion there.
With that being said, I just wanted to add to is like, I see interesting gaming projects coming up that don't have like the craziest graphics, but they are trending like #1 on some of the gaming platforms, which is very interesting to see because it's such a low barrier to entry. EV being one of those. it's just a browser-based game. So I'm really excited to see games like that, or maybe mobile games. Mobile actually makes up like 70% of the revenue in the gaming industry, which is enormous. So I like, as Jorge was saying, what's the strategy here for macro Web3 gaming? Is there a serious strategy going to be at play? I would love to see Illuvium Star Atlas have even just mini games or fun games to play on browser or mobile. I think that's definitely a good move, because it's quite expensive, as everybody knows, to build a AAA game.
So I guess the Star Atlas have the
think
lead because Solana's building a mobile phone.
Oh, a hot take.
Oh,
I like
don't
it.
know.
I like it.
TSG, or wait, I see Osaka in the green room, man. But yeah, TSG, what's your answer on that? I'm curious.
Yeah, I was gonna say, okay, so we know if we take what we just kind of agreed on, that mobile is gonna play a huge part in adoption, mass adoption, right? So let's put that right at the back. So now the goal is, how do we get to that point? Because we can't just say, oh, let's just be quiet, work on a game, and then it's just gonna be out on mobile. It's not gonna work that way, right? We're gonna have to take little steps. So I think the thing that you pointed out is probably the best way to do it. Have these games, start building these IPs, and start to present them slowly via mini games, via smaller games. Just start making it accessible to the mass market on mobile. And we know with Illuvium, again, I'm more well versed on Illuvium, so I can speak on that. But Illuvium's doing that with Illuvium Zero, with the land sale, and they're putting that out. So people that may be non-crypto native are still going to find that on the App Store and the Google Play Store, and they're going to get a feel of the Illuvium IP. It's the same as if it was the Mario IP or anything like that. They get a feel for it on the mobile, and as the main games develop over time, they start to carry on and push that further and further. So I think for Star Atlas and Illuvium and anyone else, especially all the AAA games that you said Immutable X has been talking about, things like that, I think their main goal now is to double down on the main game that they're building, like the AAA game. But in the meantime, get something out there that's of quality. And I think that's a massive, massive bit of a importance, right? Because I was rewatching my interview with Andrew for a video I was doing, and he was mentioning the thing with GameStop. Like, GameStop's trying to get into the Web3 space, and they're only going to partner and really showcase projects that are of the highest quality, because their consumers are used to that. Consumers are used to AAA games. So we need to find a way to double down on building those core games and building AAA mini games and games of a quality of a standard like that, and put them out to the market on mobile phones, on tablets, so that the mass market is already starting to adopt these IPs, and they're not as closed up when the main games come on with everything else. That's kind of how I would play it if I was in that position. And from what I'm seeing, it seems like that's what Illuvium is doing as well. So whether it's the right or wrong way, we'll have to wait and see. But that's definitely how I would play it if I was in charge.
And I kind of want to get JP's take on this, right? JP, you're looking at, I know Arcade looks at about, I think 10 or 12 games a week. And I think there's some particular questions you always have ready to go that you want to ask these games to, like, accessibility, mobile games, and all this stuff. What's your take on all this, and what's your approach?
Yeah, I mean, I think that mobile games are, I think mobile indisputably is going to be kind of the way for the route to mass adoption, just because that is where most people access. I mean, all the statistics we've already talked about, but it is good to see that games like Star Atlas and Illuvium are both working on solutions to cater to that demographic, because you're right, they are going to have very, I guess, hardware heavy installations for their main games. And Illuvium has like Illuvium Zero, and Star Atlas has Score and the Scream missions and stuff like that that's more browser based, and they're working on some mobile integrations as well. So I think it's going to be important for a piece of these broader kind of ecosystems that they're creating. Illuvium has like their whole thing. They're building out their own lore, their own game series, their own franchise, and Star Atlas is kind of doing the same thing. And I think there has to be a place for mobile interaction for certain things. Like, if you want the full Illuvium experience, you need to be involved with Illuvium Zero, right? I think things like that are going to be really important going forward. And mobile technology is just getting better, right? We're being able to pack more and more power into these really small chips, and that's just kind of the direction that the tech industry is headed, to create, you know, more immersive experiences in smaller and smaller devices. So I think kind of fighting that wave is counterproductive for people that are building for the long term. But I think there will always be this place, like if you want the most you know, the most high quality, high res experience, it's probably going to always happen like on a larger device. But I think that the smaller devices will be a good entry point for people to access the ecosystem from anywhere.
So I'm getting the 3-minute rule here, because that I got another couple guests coming in. So I'll give a minute each to TSG, a minute to Don. Close it out on some of the things that you want to talk about GameFi, and you tell us how to follow you on your page so that we can keep going this conversation next time. And hopefully, TSG, hopefully we could bring another Star Atlas guest onto your show one day, and maybe have this conversation keep going, right? And this is all about building communities. So go for it, TSG, and then Don.
100%. Yeah. So what do I? I don't even know what to say. Yo, honestly, thank you guys. I honestly wish we had more time. I wish we didn't have the technical difficulties. Yeah, plug the socials.
Plug the socials, guys. Follow TSG.
Turn on the notifications.
Sorry,
Kyle already knows. Yeah. If you like this type of content, guys, like, subscribe, hit the notification. Always. Check me out on YouTube, TSG Illuvium. I cover Illuvium mainly, like I said, but I am covering other crypto games, NFT things. So check that out. I try to stay up to date and share some valuable insight there. And Twitter, TSG__7. But that's it. If you guys want, subscribe. I'm sure we'll collaborate way more anyway. But again, thank you guys for having me on.
Awesome content. Yeah, definitely.
Thank you, TSG. And Don, tell us, take it away, couple 1 minute, and tell us about how to get involved with you, and kind of close out what you were looking forward to the debate today.
Yeah, definitely, man. Well, I just want to first and foremost say thank you guys for having me on. The Alessio Family Gaming Guild, Mafia Theme Gaming Guild. You can follow us on Twitter at Alessio. Hop in our Discord. We actually have my co-founder. He's about to, I assume, take my place right now, Jimmy Hoffa. So he'll be able to talk a little bit more about it. But again, yeah, I thank you guys for having me on, and it's going to be interesting to see this debate between the swags and Kieran. So I'm excited to see it.
Thank you, and
I
thank you.
It stays constructive.
Yep. And JP, you want to put out anything from Arcade and
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess just final thoughts is that Arcade, our ethos is really to create these bridges between things. And that's why when we saw this debate happening, we were like, okay, this is a really good opportunity for us to demonstrate to the broader GameFi community that, like, Arcade is a safe space where we can talk about the things that really matter to GameFi, without having bias towards any one particular game, and talk about the facts and be constructive. So I'm just excited to see that unroll today. Thank you guys for being guests, TSG and Don, and excited for the other guests that are coming on with us today. We have 2 Star Atlas creators and 2 Illuvium creators that are about to join us to dive deeper into the discussion. But yeah, let's go ahead and kick it off, because I know we only have about 20 minutes for those guys, Jorge. So I'll leave it to you, but don't burn the house down. Make sure that you keep it classy. So all right, thanks guys.
Are we still giving away money or no?
Giving away. If it comes out of your salary.
Giving away PCs.
Because JP's giving away laptops. But anyway.
Oh my god.
Maybe some NFTs. I don't know, JP. You have to have something before you close it out. You don't want to give away anything? Jeez.
All right. Well, all right. We're doing our NFT thing here in the next couple months. It's going to be a utility NFT for our platform. It's going to be really cool. That's a little bit of alpha drop for you. But yeah, make sure you join our Discord if you're not already in there. Comment that you came from this Twitch stream. Say, hey, I'm from Twitch. We're going to give you a special rule, and you'll be airdropped an NFT later. So that's all I'm giving them, Jorge. That's all I've got. That's it. And if you guys don't join after this stream, that's it. That's Thanks,
all right,
too much alpha. Too much. No.
Yeah. Bring in the next round. Bring in the next guys. Hopefully, no more Arcade guys. But that was an awesome talk. As we transition to our next folks, I appreciate everybody that was on the first panel. I don't know who won. Did anybody win that panel, Kyle? I don't know. I mean, I'm not gonna start. I'm just joking. Yeah, I think it was great to have them on, and I think it was great to hear. I actually got a little bit that it's great to see the two communities have almost the same visions, but on different sides. And this is exactly why we wanted to do this panel, right? Is because we all have the same visions. It's just that we're on different sides. But this is exactly why we brought everybody together to do these kind of talks and say, man, like we're not different. We're not any different. We all want to grow in the GameFi space. We just need to figure out how to grow. And I think teaming up like this was the perfect idea. So I think we got our new guest in. I think we'll start from right to left. Kyle, I think to your right, I think I have Scoriox. Scoriox, you want to start off and give a quick 10-second intro, and then we'll go to Matt and then Jimmy?
I think you muted me. Am I muted or no?
I can hear you. You're good to go.
I can hear you as well.
Yeah. So I'm just Scoriox. I do mostly Illuvium content on the channel. I've been following Illuvium for quite some time. I felt late to the party, but there are definitely a lot of viewers of mine that are later. Let's put it that way. But no. I believe in the Illuvium vision. I believe in the team, and I'm very excited to see where it's going to go in the future. But there's so much happening in GameFi and crypto in general that I'm really in no rush. I think everyone's building at the moment, and I'm very excited to see what happens with everyone building, and hopefully everyone can be as collaborative as possible. I think the Star Atlas vision is really, really awesome. I have no idea on their timeframes, which makes me nervous to actually buy anything into the Star Atlas universe, but I'm definitely excited to get more involved with that when the time comes.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's funny you say something, right? Like none of these two guys really have a game out yet, so it's actually pretty funny that there's a debate already happening of like, hey, who's got a better game type thing, but no one's really put out a product that be like, okay, well, this game is really cool or really fun to play, and this is how it all works. So I'm glad that we're having this debate. Matt, I see you on there next. Matt, you want to give a quick intro and what you're looking forward to in the debate today too?
Yeah, g'day guys. Oscar Matt. I have been around Illuvium a lot less than Scoriox, so I feel a lot late. But definitely all in on Illuvium and NFT gaming. Mainly cover Illuvium, but obviously down the line we'll dip my toes in here and there. Looked a bit at Star Atlas, but as Scoriox said, it's too far away for me to really dive too far in. But for the debate, I don't think they're going to attack each other. I think it'll just be more who's at what stage and why this one's better than that one. But I don't think they're going to kick each other. It would be fun if they do, but I don't know. We'll see how that goes.
So something interesting is, like, I'm seeing in the chat too, like Illuvium does have a game out, sort of. It's in beta, right? So there's kind of the survival mode. But, one thing I did learn, I think it was like the 426 from Star Atlas, is it does seem like they are way more far ahead than what most people actually thought. So that is another, like, couple different narratives right there. Illuvium beta, but Star Atlas also more ahead than what most people thought, I think, if people and folks tuned into that 426 event. It was actually quite interesting, some of the announcements that came from Star Atlas. But a couple of points to notate there on both sides.
Yep. And Jimmy, I think you're live next. And we just had your co-founder on before, and he was talking hella crap about you. So I think you got a big stage here to fill. So go for it.
Yeah, no worries. We've known each other for a while, so it's kind of expected, understandable. But no, I thanks so much for the opportunity for Don and I both to come on. Really appreciate the opportunity. It's exciting. The debate is going to be great. So just backstory. I'm the co-founder and underboss of the Alessio family metaverse mafia gaming guild. Our goal kind of is to build the infrastructure for folks to earn a primary source of income from the metaverse and these games. And so for us, we're being kind of metaverse agnostic. We're excited about both these games. We kind of got into this space first through Star Atlas, and then we kind of learned about Illuvium and where they're at in the process and things like that. So really excited to see kind of what the conversation is like. I personally am very much an avid believer in the idea that we should all be working together on this project. I think that big AAA game developers are not going to handhold us while we build something that's going to disrupt their entire industry and their entire way of making money. And neither will big companies like Meta and things like that. And so I think the idea that we are on opposite sides is very misleading, because I think we're all kind of pushing for the same thing, which is a Web3 native distributed governance system and a distributed society where all this stuff works seamlessly, and we don't have to think about which blockchain it's on, because nobody cares. So yeah.
Speaking of which,
super excited.
Yeah, speaking of which, it was an interesting move by Animoca Brands, and I think actually Star Atlas was a part of this announcement, but the Metaverse Alliance, I thought that was an interesting announcement. To me, it's actually pretty refreshing, because I feel like there's going to be standards in the space in Web3, so that is something I'm excited about.
Yep. And so me Metaverse, I saved the best for last. That's how they always say, right? Big stage here. Tell us a little bit about you, and tell us what you're looking forward to today.
Thanks a lot, guys, for having me. First off, can I get a mic check? You guys can hear me fine? Yeah, awesome. My name's Leon. I go by Metaverse Explorer. I started doing Star Atlas YouTube videos, and content was really good. People loved it, so I kept doing it, and that's where I am now. I don't just focus on Star Atlas as well. I do a bit of crypto news, NFT art in the space. But much like yourselves, I'm chain agnostic. I am multi-chain. It doesn't matter which chain, which game is going to be on. At the end of the day, as long as the game's fun to play, people are going to come to it. And tonight, I'm looking forward to a nice cordial, a nice productive debate between Web3 developers, Web3 game developers, and not hopefully apes slinging stuff at each other. That's not what I want. I want to have a really good debate about the choices that these developers have made, and where they are now because of these choices, and if they would concede a point to an opponent someone they view as an opponent. So that's what I'm looking forward to at the moment. So thanks a lot for having me on. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, and with that said, you mentioned you're a Star Atlas creator, and I'll start with you. Is what got you into Star Atlas, right? Like, what was that Star Atlas that you thought was that spark that, like, hey man, I want to go down this hole? Because we have 2 other Illuvium creators, right? And I want to ask them that same question, because it's going to be great to see like I want to see your visions on what you guys saw in GameFi.
Well, you said the word right there, the vision of it. Because when Star Atlas first started, right, I myself, I'm very interested in spacefaring games. I'm interested in tech games, sci-fi, like what do you call it? What's the Interstellar? That movie, like that's one of the best movies I've ever seen in my life. I saw it in like a IMAX cinema. My God. Anyway, off topic. So what got me into it was the scope of what was told to us, what you would be able to do in this kind of metaverse, this environment. And at the same time, I also did see Illuvium, and I kind of made the distinction between the two and said, which game am I actually going to be playing for the longer term, and which game seems to have a long-term vision? And to me, that was Star Atlas at the moment. Now, doesn't really matter where they both are within the process of development at the moment. Games take ages, as we all know. Someone made the point here about like releasing small games ahead of time so that people can experience the metaverse. But for me, the spark was sci-fi, was the vision that I'll be able to play this for the next 5-10 years. That's what made it for me.
That's awesome.
Solid.
And so, Koryak, so like, what got you into Illuvium? I'd like to hear your story.
I think I'm following along the same road there. I do enjoy sci-fi games, but they're much less my thing. I grew up with Pokemon. Pokemon was always my game ever since I was a kid. And I don't think Illuvium is necessarily going to be the next Pokemon, but I do collect the Pokemon cards, and I like the idea of collectathon games and things like that. So I feel like they can have a really great end game as well, just collecting lots of different things. And I think Star Atlas will definitely have that as well. But that's definitely been my focus with Illuvium. Is I love the idea of collecting, evolving, growing your team, and the randomly generated stats and things like that. I love to be a perfectionist in those sorts of areas. So Illuvium just seem like my sort of game. There's not really much more to it. The style of gameplay, I feel like, will keep me entertained for a long time, very much along the same lines, yeah.
And that's awesome to hear that it's kind of like, it's play for fun, right? Like it's fun. Like there's something behind it that like, you're passionate about. And that's one aspect of GameFi, right? Like it's got to be fun. It just can't be all this earn stuff, right? That we keep hearing, like play to earn, play to earn. I think it needs to be fun as well. Like in order to keep people playing and bring in new users and everything like that, it's got to be something that's fun. So Matt, you mentioned that you're a little bit into other games as well, but mostly Illuvium. And tell me, like, what was it that Illuvium was that like you were like the aha moment with them?
Well, it's exactly what you just said there, for fun. Like, I can see myself playing this for 5-10 years into the future. I like city builders, I like the Illuvium Zero, I like the arena, the auto battler, and then same as Scoriox, I played Pokemon growing up, so the monster catching effect like that is right down my alley as well. And I'm a completionist, so I'll be wanting to catch everything, have the best stats in anything, try and find some hollows. It just had that longevity for me and the excitement of how I grew up playing other games. So yeah, pretty much that. It just sprung out to me. Whereas all the other NFT games, obviously other than Star Atlas, all look terrible.
Now I want to.
Not all of them. Sorry.
Hold on
Most
there.
of them aren't very good.
Yeah.
Is anybody like both, like me, where I'm like, I like space and I collected Pokemon as a kid? Like, yeah.
I'm both.
So,
like, I'm not. Yeah, like I want to add there, I'm not at all like disliking Illuvium. I think you guys are really good. And if I owned a land, if I had any Illuvials, I would play that game. But you have to make the distinction. You can only actually play so many hours in a day being an adult. Which game are you going to give your hours to? And I didn't grow up with Pokemon. I grew up in Africa, didn't exist there. And so Star Atlas is the thing for me. So like, it's just, you got to make a choice.
good point.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great point. You know what I mean? And so, Kyle, I mean, what got you into this GameFi space? I would say, like, I want to hear from your style. I didn't get really asked that.
Yeah. So actually, Illuvium, like I didn't really do a deep dive into it. I actually learned about Star Atlas kind of first in terms of what they had going on. So I did buy a ship over there, learned about Illuvium, got super pumped about that as well. I was huge into Pokemon, so I love both. But what got me into GameFi specifically was just the ownership of over your own assets. Like this is what excited me. To me, it was a no-brainer. I had just came off playing tons of Fortnite, tons of Call of Duty, and spending tons of money in those games, and literally being a part of Season 1 Fortnite. So I witnessed the whole blow-up of Fortnite. And the one thing that I noticed is like people spending tons of hundreds and hundreds of dollars on these skins that they'll never own. Now it'll just be on their account, but if they move on to another game, or maybe they get excited about the next Call of Duty or the next Battlefield or whatever, right? It's like you can't really transport those assets over, and then you kind of have to start over and start fresh. And you see this all the time. Fortnite's done a really great job, but at the end of the day, you can't resell your John Wick skin from Season 1. You'll never be able to. And so to me, that was important, is like, man, I really want to flex this. What if I want to put it as a PFP on Twitter? You really can't. Like, you can't verify that asset, that it's yours. I can't go to Christie's auction and go sell it. So there's a lot of things that really got me into GameFi, that there was a lot of pain points in the traditional gaming space that I was kind of fed up with it, so to speak.
Yeah, and you talk about pinpoints, and it kind of gets me to the next one where I want to ask Jimmy, who's kind of like a investor / guild, right? You're kind of on both sides. What's a pinpoint right now that you're seeing in anything in the GameFi space that you're kind of worried about, and you have these two mega giants about to go talk that you kind of wish that you could hear more about?
Yeah, I mean, look, great question. One of the things this kind of, tails into what you guys were talking about before about what got me into GameFi in the first place. I first learned about Star Atlas. I didn't know about Illuvium at the beginning, but the more I learned about the GameFi space, the more I realized that we're building the tools necessary to allow us to experiment with new and novel forms of distributed governance on these metaverse blockchains and in these games. And so I think what I would like to see is more discussion about how we're going to govern these new economies, these new ecosystems. What are the distributed governance institutions that our kids are going to use in these systems to govern themselves in the future, right? And I think we're taking on a lot of responsibility by building these kind of new synthetically constructed economies that are supposed to provide real income, and they're going to be these governance institutions are going to be stress tested with managing real economic value, with real people that have to make real decisions, and all these people are coming together in these games assuming equality, because if you're not equal in these games, then you're just going to leave and play the other game where you are equal, right? Because you're playing for fun, like you all are saying. So I think I'd like to see more of, what are the governance institutions going to be like? How are we going to build Web3 native societal constructs on these games? Because look, we're going to be governing real value. We're going to be having real money flowing between people. And we're going to be having real disputes to settle, those kinds of things.
And I'm glad you said that, right? Because I think that the next thing that I'll talk about, right, is we got a lot of content creators right here, right? And I think, like, you look at Star Atlas and you look at Lugium, you look at the age group that these games are kind of geared to as well, right? You're going to have a younger generation coming in. And I think education is going to be the key point to all of this. We have to make sure that we're creating content that's educational for them to know how to play the game and how money works, inflow, outflow of money, what the governance and DAOs and everything, how all that's going to work. Because I'll tell you one thing, like sometimes even myself, I'm like, wait, what? Like, we have to, it's a lot, right? So I think education is going to be the key point to a lot of the next wave of people coming in. And so, I'll bring it back down to like Storyox, like, education being the next topic. Like, what's your thoughts on that?
But right here, you see, join the fight for
I don't think we're going to see. I don't think education is going to be all that relevant, to be honest, because
some type of land gameplay.
NFT has become this double-edged sword, which is really unfortunate. NFT was used as a buzzword to help people get their game out there and get it in front of lots of people. And you're seeing as the crypto markets fall and things, NFT is now being used against the NFT gaming industry, whereas all the traditional gamers and stuff are using it as like it's a bad thing kind of word and stuff like that. So I think where we go into is we enter this world where NFT isn't really used anymore, even though NFTs are being used in the back end. And you're not going to be able to see this stuff on the front end. It's going to be like, your standard like banking and all that sort of stuff. It's just going to be like all hidden, all right? It's going to be all hidden in the back end. And once that happens, it just feels like any other website. And then kind of what education really happens. There's some for those that want to go deeper, but for everyday people, they're going to have all the security and backing and stuff of major banks and things like that instead. Once regulation comes into it, I'm not convinced education is really going to be a big step here. I think it's all going to disappear into the back end, and no one's going to see it anymore. And then it's just going to be like everyone's going to go on with their daily lives. That's how I see this playing out. Obviously, there's going to be middle stages, but that's where I see the end goal there.
Yeah, I think it's interesting what you said there too, is like it's running on the back end. What I'm seeing in the macro personally is the term NFT referred to as collectibles or in-game items or in-game collectibles or digital collectibles. And I'm really starting to see a shift there. You see Facebook or Meta, even Instagram, use different terminology. And I notice a lot of Web3 gaming, even influencers and content creators, they're starting to use that word as well. So I think just things that make it simple and to understand to like the main stream user, I think is also important there. So I think that was a great point.
All right, 9 o'clock, the debate's about to start. So thanks everybody for, sorry for cutting everybody off, but thank you guys. We're going to do more things like this. So expect it in the future. Today was a great way to like intro and get the feeler out. And I think this was a great, it looks like already a great discussion. So we'll definitely do more of these. Let's turn it over to the debate.
See you guys.
See you. Thanks for having us.
Great talks, great discussions.
The wax promotion there at the beginning, but since that's out of the way and we're going, and we love what you do at the Juice team, really happy to be here. Thanks for putting this together. Kieran, again, happy to have this conversation
join us.
Here.
I see him in the green room. Been checking
hold the integrity of our company and of our project to
I have no idea how this works.
So I think it's important that we kind of clear the air and get down to the facts of what's going on, what we're building, and what our vision is. So as to what is the vision behind Star Atlas, I would start by kind of clarifying that it's founded by 4 members. It was conceptualized in 2020.
Yeah, I see it live on the channel. So
3 of the co-founders
on the Twitch.
So Danny, our
so
chief product
see
officer,
here.
and Jacob, our chief technology
I
officer.
don't see it on our
myself,
in our green
we work
room, but I
together
do
now
see it on the Twitch
multiple
feed. So
Web3 startup companies, working at my previous company, which is called Tokes. That's
Alex, you
2016.
working on that for us or no?
And Pablo's
yeah, we're all live.
Co-founder there. He's our chief revenue officer.
We can't hear the
tail end of 2020, but the idea here that we conceptualized was bringing a AAA quality grand strategy, space exploration, massively multiplayer online game to Web3.
Can I check if you guys want me to stay, or should I disconnect?
Territory
you can disconnect because I don't.
political
It's just going to
domination,
be nothing crazy.
and it has all of the attributes of a AAA MMO. So character progression, leveling up,
Alex,
loadouts,
I need to get debate.
And of course, all of the dynamics.
So I just sent you a DM, Jorge, in the Telegram, the link to the.
Naturally for us, being experts in
the
all
debate.
things cryptocurrency and blockchain.
I know. Well,
many
I guess
of the financial mechanics that are.
I guess I'll just
through
put on my
things like NFTs,
headphones and
through
hear it then.
Crypto native economy using both the governance token in Polis and our digital currency, our native.
Alex, can you turn the volume up on the debate a little higher or no?
And I think one of the core distinguishing characteristics of what we do is building a lot of our game logic on the blockchain as well. So actually abstracting that from the game engine and delivering that on the Solana blockchain.
Alex?
So we built an Unreal Engine 5. We were part of the early access program there, so we've been building in UE5 now for about 10 months.
All right, I'm going to mute myself so I can listen to it on my phone then.
And one important thing though that I do want to clarify is that Star Atlas as a game and as an MMO is really just the centerpiece of a much larger vision. And so this is where we enter into the world of the metaverse. And our vision there is, and by the way, I do want to qualify that I don't think it's actually accurate to call any of the projects that are building around this metaverse concept as being an independent metaverse. I think of this as really being a much larger, universal, interconnected, and interoperable system. So we are an entry point into that.
So
we are one environment.
So that's why you call Illuvium a minigame into Star Atlas, right? So they can tap into the Star Atlas world and be a minigame in there.
And I do want to clarify that wasn't.
I know it was a joke.
Necessarily intended to be disparaging. We actually have this concept of tangent worlds that we should get into, and we can discuss that a bit later in the call. But I will wrap up here shortly. But the broader vision of Star Atlas is a global, decentralized, interconnected and open metaverse. So what we're looking to establish fundamentally is a strong open economy that people can participate in. And the metaverse encapsulates things like social dynamics and workplace and governance and education, and of course gaming being a core application that will live inside the metaverse. But all of these things and all of these activities and this commerce, this will all exist in these digital worlds, which means the opportunity for people to participate in these immersive digital environments is massive. And so that's the big picture, that's the vision. And yes, it will take a long time for us to get there, but this is something that we're fully committed to and dedicated to building.
Perfect. Now, let me jump into this actual debate, because obviously Kieran has some questions about Star Atlas, and I'm sure you got the answers for this. And if you don't, it's all good. I think it's all good. We're all building here, and we're all learning, right? Now, Kieran, how do you see the Web3, or not Web3? How do you see game development? How is game development supposed to be? Because I see a lot of people taking shots at Star Atlas. Not only you, some other developers out there that they don't mention Star Atlas. Sometimes they put little pictures and then they hint or something, and they say, oh well, they have they're kind of outsourcing or whatever. How are you building your game? How do you think games should be built? Right.
Yeah, so let's probably just draw it back, right? Because I have somehow I've gotten this image, or I don't even know, this people have this idea of me as this troll guy who just hates on projects and is out there to just destroy and mock other projects for no reason whatsoever, right? And to be honest, like it's just nonsensical. I don't have the time. The only time that I'll step in is when I believe that a Web3 project is taking advantage of potentially naive, very new adopters to Web3 gaming, and the reason I step in and try and protect them is they are critical for mass adoption, right? The first million people that come in here and are active players, they're going to bring the next 10 million and the next 100 million and et cetera, right? And so when I feel like, and it's obviously my opinion, and Michael can go into, you know, the reasons why I'm wrong and whatever, but when I feel like that is happening, I'm going to call it out, right? I did that last year with Axie. I said that their economic model is unsustainable, and I think I even used the word it's a Ponzi, right? Now,
well, the team is unsustainable. The Axie team is also sustainable. So, like, you can't really compare Axie to Star Atlas, but yeah, keep going.
No. I'm literally just the idea of me calling out a project. If you think this blowback was crazy, when I did it with Axie and no one would ever dare do that, it was 10 times worse. So, I'm not out here to just be an asshole for no reason. I'm trying to literally protect what we have here, because it's for the well-being of all of us who are properly building projects. And again, it's my opinion based on the last 12 months of me seeing few interviews here and there, me being told a few things here and there, and just purely looking at the scope of what Star Atlas is endeavoring to build, and some of the dates that they put out in AMAs and different publications, none of it adds up, right? Like if I'll get into why.
Yeah, please go into details, right? Like, what is it that you think doesn't add up? That you think, because this is very important. It's something that you think, because you already said some people told you some things, you see some things that don't add up, but what 100%. Is it? And go right into the what it is, right?
Sure. So firstly, we've seen 2 minutes of gameplay, and let's just go into what Star Atlas in their white paper is explaining they're going to deliver over some timeline. It's a question that I have for Michael. If it's 15 years, then that makes more sense to me. Nice. Let's just dive into it. So we got a grand strategy space exploration game. You've got land and territory control, vehicle and fleet control, including a broad variety of spaceships, space and land-based mining operations, player versus environment missions, player versus player combat, dynamic career system harnessing specialized equipment, and to just go for the holy trinity of features, we're also going to have it VR enabled, right? Now, that is an amazing vision. I love it. I think I would play 10 hours a day on this of this game. And, it has a very, very, very similar vision to Star Citizen. And as we know, Star Citizen has a $400 million budget, or has raised that much money so far. They've got 600, 700 developers that are working on this. They've been going for 10 years and they don't have a game. And yet here we have Star Atlas, a brand new Web3 game that is doing all of this, plus integrating blockchain into it as well. Now, I'll give them this. They have a lot of ties to blockchain. It seems like Michael's had a decent career in crypto, and they're working very closely with the Solana team. But I know from experience, because we're literally connecting these things up now, it is extremely complex to then add on top of it all that you're building this on blockchain. So for me, the first thing is when I hear things like we're going to have the first version that's playable in 2022, and the gameplay that we see is literally a single model of ship that is sitting there. It's a very standard humanoid character that walks, like literally the only thing we're seeing is walking to this ship, and then they look up at the ship, and that's it. Now, gameplay to me, if we go back to here, There's no player versus environment missions. There's no PvP. There's no fighting of the ships. There's not even any weaponry that is being shown on these ships. There's no building of the ships. There's literally nothing, right? Now, we're talking, you just mentioned 10 months of development. I believe that all of this is happening. I believe Star Atlas is in this position where they obviously can't show better gameplay than that because they don't have the team that Michael is suggesting they do, right? So that's my first question right there.
Yep. Perfect. Michael, so we don't make this a monologue, right? Now, Michael, what is your thought on this? What is your reply to all of this? Jump in, bro.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton to unravel there. And Kieran, I appreciate you reading through the white paper because honestly, that does describe the vision quite well, and that is exactly what we intend to build. And the reality is yes, as I said when I was describing the vision during the introduction, is that we fully anticipate this to take a long time. At no point have we ever said that we're going to have a fully playable game within 1 year. Your criticisms online were with respect to how many personnel do we have working on this project. So I'll address that first. But secondary to that is that there's no way that we can deliver in 1 year and that we've been promoting the fact that we'll have a full game in 1 year. We've never said that. In fact, our community went out and analyzed all of our communications since inception, and always I have said 5 to 7 years minimum for a V1 playable version of this game. Now, that's not to say that we're building for 5 years before we release anything. We are releasing modules, which is what the showroom is intended to be. Now, I can explain what the timeline behind that is and how we're developing out our content production pipelines and what goes into releasing that, how it's not just purely an environment that people can engage in, and how many assets are in there, and how many ships are in there, and how many character models are in there. I can go into all of that. But to address your first question,
it's really similar.
I would love to.
Illuvium,
Yeah, absolutely. So, but with respect to your first question, where are we at on personnel? Now, as I said on Twitter, we're currently around 240
open world game.
Pulled these numbers on Friday. We are at 236 people. Now, how do we categorize those people? We have 132 that are internal to Star Atlas. Now, that's all things operations. So I'm going to start with the non-game. I'll call it non-game development positions. So things like our RevOps department, which Pablo leads up, and this is all things communications, growth, PR, marketing, comms, business development, right? So he wears a lot of hats, and he also has a production ops team that helps us with interdepartmental communications and coordination. So that's a team of about 30 people. On our ops team, so just things like finance and general ops and legal, that's maybe another 10 to 12 people, right? Our economics team is now 5 people strong, highly qualified individuals. And then let's get into the actual, art production, game direction. So this is, actually, let me focus on engineering first. We probably have 40 or so people that are in our engineering department. And this is all things, just call it web dev, infrastructure, and blockchain development. We have the largest, this is, I don't have certainty around this, but my suspicion is that we have the largest Rust development team building on Solana outside of Solana themselves. Again, highly qualified individuals with the most experience developing Rust. And to that end, we've actually deployed 11 on-chain programs. 9 of those are in production with no compromises and no vulnerabilities, I might add. So, again, very qualified. Now, getting into art production and game direction. This is obviously Danny's camp.
Sorry, can we just go back there? You said how many devs or engineers do you have, like including Solidity and Rust and your actual gameplay, your Unreal devs?
Including Unreal devs, internal. We have 40 across those 4 different departments. So this includes Unreal devs. It includes our
how many Unreal devs do you have internally?
Internally is probably 4 today. So let me get to the other component of this, which is this idea of outsourcing. These are co-creation studios. I'm happy to pull up a screen here if you'd like me to share it. We've spoken about. Should I share the screen?
Yeah. If you guys, I told both of you, if you guys have anything new to share or want to share something, go ahead. Let's do it. Yep.
I have a bunch of content here we can run through if we want. But let me just start with Spheresoft. This is one of the studios that we've announced the relationship with and the partnership with. Specifically in Spheresoft, we have 58 team members, and I do consider them team members. These are full-time, 100% dedicated personnel working exclusively on Star Atlas. Now, in addition to that, we have another, and you can see here the type of teams that they work with. By the way, this idea of co-creation or co-development studios, it's not new to building games. You can see Ubisoft, Electronic Arts, DICE, NetherRealm, right? Outer Worlds, Diablo, these are the types of games and products that they work on. This is a full suite game development studio. So I can't tell you exactly what the breakdown of their team members are, but it's everything. Like we actually do all of the art production. So their team is specifically tasked with integrating our art and working in Unreal Engine and building out the game in Unreal Engine. 58 just from Spheresoft. Go on.
Yeah, just wanted to jump in there and just get a clarification because you just said 130 internal. I just was quickly going through a couple of interviews, just making sure that that I was getting my facts right. In that interview, you said you had 210 people, so I think it was like 4 months ago or something like that. But you say you have 180 internal. Like specifically, he asked how many are internal and how many are external. In the interview, you say 180 are internal. Was that an oversight, or did you get rid of 50 people?
No, I would need to see the interview, but I'm pretty confident I was referring to total team size. I've always referred to total team size, and this is inclusive of...
You specifically say outsource is 30 people. I mean, I'm not going to get into like literally video by video, but like we can do an after debate thing and I can send that video in. But I mean, and that was literally the first video that I looked at. So anyway, like that's the thing, but it speaks to my narrative that these team numbers, I wasn't actually, what I was really like, what really irked me was when I found out that you were doing outsourced development. What I liked to see was that you were upfront about that. But I don't think it was your, like, maybe clarify this. Was it your initial plan to build internally and not outsource any devs, or what, or did that slowly turn into a plan?
First of all, again, just on the 180 number, I'd love to see the interview that you're referring to so we can get clarification on that. I've always referred to total team size, so we can take a peek. But in terms of scalability, it was indeed always part of our plan to be able to scale as rapidly as possible. What's the best method of doing that? It's hiring the most qualified teams from around the world to work with us directly. The only way you get to approximately 240 people over the course of, now we've been around for what, 19 months, but realistically, most of last year was about presenting the vision and laying some of the fundamental and foundational pieces of game development. So our hiring didn't really start until, excuse me, our recruiting didn't really start until like late Q3, early Q4. So the only way you get to 240 people in less than a year is by utilizing some of the best external studios in the world. So it's a very successful and attractive
we
methodology.
have done that, so I don't like
so
that.
You
doesn't
recognize
make sense.
it. Yeah, so you recognize that it's a solid and sound strategy for growing a team.
No. As in, I'm saying, sorry, to clarify there, it is possible. Alluvium has done that. We have outsourced 2 environments to 2 external teams, very transparent about that. We've got about 12 people working on each one. But when we quote our numbers, that's our internal team. And we built it in maybe 14 months. So maybe your statement of you can't do it in 12 is correct. But certainly, you know, we don't have half of our resources coming from external studios.
Sure. And that might be your approach, and I fully support the approach that we're taking, which is working with teams like VertPaint. You see on screen, this is one of our ship models. You know, to us, we do all of the game direction and art direction in-house. So in terms of this idea of outsourcing, well, we're still leading the game vision, and we do utilize third parties that are have exclusive contracts with us in most cases, where we're engaging with their entire team in which case we can engage with, you know, anywhere between, call it 4 and 20 people in a team that is
Jorge, I saw your comment.
competent at working collaboratively with themselves, because that's what they do all the time. And then we can bring them into the fold and integrate them into our development process at Star Atlas. So to me, this is it's a very efficient way, it's a cost-effective way, and also, for what it's worth, not that we have any intention of disengaging with these teams, but in the future, if we get through the completion of certain aspects of game development, it also means it's not a financial liability or obligation on our part to continue to pay personnel that is no longer producing a certain component of our game. And so it's beneficial for them, it's beneficial for us, it reduces liability and allows us very rapid scalability in the way that we develop. And so it's a pretty optimal path.
1 second. Look, I didn't pay my Zoom thing. I didn't know this was a paid thing. Like, never in my entire life.
Where you did this last time.
I did this last time too. Okay.
We've had multiple interviews.
I mean, I don't use Zoom. I use Google, Discord. Like,
I'm kidding, man.
I don't
it's all
know,
good.
man.
We could just. I think we can. I think you've got 7 minutes. If you've got $60 on your credit card, you can.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. But my thing is saying right now, like $2,000. All right, no, wait, 274.
Go,
okay,
somebody open it. Go find me.
All right, quick. All right, go. Keep going. Keep going. I'm gonna try to check out here.
Crowdfund Kagi right now.
My point is that we now work with 7 co-development studios. We're very open and honest about that.
I'm gonna send them a super
included those
chat.
numbers in our team numbers. I've never said this is, to my knowledge, and maybe it was an oversight. If I said 180 internally, maybe it was an oversight. I don't look at the team numbers daily, but
that's fair enough. All good.
Yeah.
All good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just digging into that a little bit further. So you've got a whole bunch of internal team members. You've just said that you used to have your team members on the website, and like very similar to us. Can you talk me through why you've only got yourselves as the founders there now? And one idea that comes to mind is well, not comes to mind, that someone said to me was that it's because you guys don't want poaching. Is that right?
Yeah, precisely. And just again, I don't want to go tit for tat here, but you know, we've taken a look at it, at your team size on your website as well, and you have something like 104 people on there. I mean, you guys are you're suggesting that you have over 200 people on your team today as well. So, I mean, you guys aren't listing everyone, but bottom line is we do have people that are trying to poach from our team, and we have solicitations daily. Now, a lot of our team members have Automata, which is the studio behind Star Atlas, or Star Atlas directly on their LinkedIn. So, I mean, it's pretty easy to go do some research on LinkedIn if you want to get a sense of what the actual internal team size is. It's no problem. I'd encourage you to do that. But what we don't want to do is spend our time in talent acquisition, recruiting the best people and most talented people from around the world, and then have someone else identify that as an opportunity for them to come solicit them.
Fair enough, and I can sort of appreciate that. I mean, I've never had that. I've never had that thought myself. We've never had anyone leave our project, and I'm super confident. I think in your case, it would benefit, because I went to your LinkedIn as well, and you've got about 15 engineers or like people related to game. It's very heavy, like ops, marketing, finance, growth, all that kind of stuff. But the thing that really irks me is that you don't have like 15 or 20 of like your top guys that, you know, hey, they've got tokens that you've given to them, they're open about it, they're like, why are you scared that they're going to leave is my thing, right? Like, don't you have a core bunch of leads in your team that you're like, well, they're not going to be poached, so we have all these people who are like, we've got a scope that looks like a 10-year game that we're going to build like in 3 to 5 years, like you're saying, but like we should probably show that we have some team members. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
What's your
I mean,
thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, my thought is that, like, generally speaking, we are transparent. This was another thing that came up, and we're very communicative with our audience. And you know, broadly speaking, I think let's let the product speak for itself. And we have a ton of enthusiasm around the work in progress videos that we have released, and the weekly roadmap updates, and our, every 3 weeks our town halls where I'm on stage and it's an open Q&A format for all of our community.
Oh man.
Now, with respect to having the team on the page and having fear of them getting poached, we have extremely passionate people. In fact, I could also just share another
in the chat
video,
commenting. They said
that went out
power.
on the Twitter this morning. Brad Warren, he's a gameplay engineer that we just brought on board, and he's giving a demo of our flyabout map, which shows ship physics and navigating through this course. And he talks about how passionate he is about the project. And they all are, and they're all dedicated, and they're all financially incentivized through a very comprehensive total comp plan that we have, which includes short-term incentive plan, long-term incentive plan, stock options, token rewards, as well as like highest level compensation for the particular job position. With that being said, I'm also a big fan of risk mitigation. Why do I want to expose my team members to all of this external noise when we have a lot to focus on internally, a lot to build internally?
Because you have a lot of people questioning your project, and rightfully so. Like, you got to recognize that, dude. Like, it's just insane to me that you're
Kieran
dismissing that.
Outside of you, my friend, we don't have anybody questioning our team size. No.
What?
Yeah.
Mates, look at your YouTube comments. Like, bro, come on. Like, we gotta.
Okay, but you can't base it on YouTube comments, right? Look,
you base it on the videos that developers have created and are saying, like, this doesn't make sense. If you're saying that you don't have an open-ended question out there across crypto, Twitter, mainstream gaming devs, if you think you don't have that question mark, then you're oblivious. Like, I'm sorry, like, you do. Until we had it. The reason I know this is because we literally had thousands of people saying, your game is bullshit, you can't build it that quickly. Now, the reason why I get so frustrated is because it was freak luck. It was ridiculous ambition. It was so much hard work for us to build an internal team to get a beta out in 12 months that has 11,000
you said 7
it.
months. You said 7 months. So, hey,
what's that?
You said 7 months for your beta too. So, you gotta, you
also,
also,
with the delay.
You also delayed. So that, let's be fair here. Let's be fair.
That's my point. My point is literally, I was you, right? I was this guy that didn't understand the scope of these products, and I overshot it, and I said, we're going to do this, and people rightfully said, you're a crackhead. That is not going to happen. Now, we delayed it by 4 months. The thing that worries me with what you're doing is your scope is like 100 times bigger than ours. Your team is half the size internally, and again, the whole website thing, like, you can go to our Discord and you can see more active people than what we have on the website. That's not an updated website, and that's the deal there. But again, we're talking about us having a product which 11,000 people are playing. You've only put out this tiny, like, you're calling it gameplay. Gameplay is the 7 things that I listed that you're actually going to be doing inside of Star Atlas. It's not walking around a showroom. Like, that's not gameplay. So, like, I don't know. Like, for me, there are a lot of questions here, and it's almost like you're just dismissing them, or you're choosing not to believe it. I don't know.
Can I ask, why does it worry you so much about what we're doing? Because I don't really spend any time thinking about Illuvium. Just to be honest with you, I focus my energy. I focus my energy on what we're building. So I'm just curious why it worries you so much.
And I had a feeling you'd say that, and that's why I opened with my initial statement that said, I don't give a fuck what you do, right? As long as you don't pollute the Web3 space, go and do whatever you want. But as soon as you start selling NFTs and saying, we're going to bring you the first initial thing of Star Atlas in 2022, call it a module, whatever you want. And what you were up to in July is you literally have a super basic tutorial where it's a person walking through. that is when I have to say, please stop wrecking our retail investors who are going to be my investors potentially and other AAA games investors. That's why I care, because I think what you're doing is unethical in my eyes.
So I think by and large, though, what it comes down in your case is you're a bit intimidated about what we're doing. You're a bit jealous of the success that we've encountered, honestly, and a primary motivator for you, Kieran. I'm going to be honest here, man. I'm going to be honest, man. A primary motivator for you is the money. Like you've communicated that on Twitter in the past. That a large
the gloves are out,
your
man.
Motivator is the money. That's not
Kieran's about to punch
I've been
his
building in
monitor.
Web3 for a long time, man. A long time. We have a very broad vision. I'm fully committed to this. This is my life's work. I'll be doing this forever. Now, with that being said, this idea that we're damaging the Web3 ecosystem, sorry, Cat's jumping on the screen there, Web3 ecosystem it couldn't be more false. We have an incredibly passionate community who I'm very in touch with, who I interact with on a daily basis. By the way, big shout out to the Star Atlas community. You guys have been incredibly supportive in Discord, especially over the last couple of days in the face of this controversy. So our people are very passionate. We just hosted an event a month ago that we called COPA, the Council of Peace Assembly. And this was dedicated to guilds or DACs within our ecosystem. We had 39 submissions from guilds. We could only select 15 to provide a presentation. This was an 8-hour event that we hosted in Discord. And do you know how excited our community is? What they understand is that, yes, this is visionary and that they're participating in a component of gameplay, even though the game doesn't exist. They're participating in strategy today. We have an enormous amount of innovation going on across our ecosystem. People that are developing applications and products like the club's pit stop application, which directly interacts with our current gameplay feature, which is called Faction Fleet. And that does live on our website. And that is a Web3 native application. That's an on-chain program.
Community-driven development
for gameplay that provides utility to our assets. So we are not damaging Web3. In fact, we're recruiting an enormous amount of people into Web3 and some of the most passionate gamers. Now, we're not exactly targeting the traditional gamer yet because we understand we don't have the AAA quality, fully immersive, full gameplay modals available that they want to play. We know that we need fun, entertaining, engaging mechanics to be able to recruit them into this space. But we will get there. Right. So what we're focused on today is ensuring that we support the community that supports us now and delivering utility to them and delivering utility to our assets and giving them the best experience possible. And if that's through communications, call it marketing, call it whatever you want, we are interacting with our community on a daily basis. Daily basis. I'm in Discord every day.
Not doubting that. Not doubting that for a second. I completely agree. Let's move on then. So obviously, we'll have to agree to disagree on that. Sure. Part of why I think you're damaging the ecosystem is, and I'm very open about this. I'm very open about this with a lot of games, but you guys sell ships before there's a game, right? Mm-hmm. Now, if you're saying the game's 3 to 5 years away before you're actually out there battling and going and building these other ships and whatever, that alone, after you've gone and raised a $10 million check, so how much have you raised in total now?
So we've sold over $200 million worth of ships.
Jesus Christ. Okay, so you've gone and sold $200 million worth of NFTs, right, for a game that's going to be available in 3 to 5 years. And my problem with that is you've gone and done sales to businesses like, or VCs like Animoca, right? So Animoca are sitting on $3 million. I don't know if they bought more or sold some or whatever, but they're sitting on $3 million worth of Star Atlas ships. The equivalent of that would be if Framework went and bought $3 million worth of our tier 5 alluvials. You know what would happen? Our game would be fucked. It would be pay to win. Literally, if you get in early and buy these ships, you're going to.
But wait, $200 million is nothing for a game of the scope of Star Atlas.
I'm just saying. I don't know. You know. I didn't dig very deep. But what I'm saying is, you're literally selling ships to VCs.
200 million, like 200 million, though. That's a lot of money.
Star Atlas, when everyone else does, $3 million worth of assets. How do you even balance that? Like, how, if I'm a player coming in, and second part to this is it's an MMO. So I'm trying to work out, like, an MMO, I've played probably 7 of the largest MMOs growing up, and I'm obsessed with them. It's all about the journey, right? In your case, a lot of that journey would be going and crafting and building these ships. But you decided to not go and raise money and then do a TGE where you raise more money. You guys decided to double down and start selling these ships, even though it's going to screw with the balance.
It's not
just what? Okay, so
No,
can you explain that?
No, I mean, think about what you just said. $3 million with respect to over $200 million in sales today. That
Keep in
represents
mind, I just put just before you go on there, I just pulled out a single thing. I don't know
Sure.
how many ships you've sold to VCs or whatever. Like, I'm saying pre-sales, there's been $200 million. It doesn't really matter who it goes to. I just thought I'd pull out Animo.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
anyway.
there's several inaccuracies there. So let me first start by saying that Animoca Brands is not a VC. They're a foundational player across the Web3 ecosystem. They support a lot of products. They also develop an enormous amount of games themselves. Yatsu is a preeminent figurehead for Web3 itself. Like, I can think of few people who are more respectable than him in the space and the vision that he espouses to the community. So Animoca Brands is not just some VC. They develop infrastructure, they develop relationships. They're part of Sandbox, another relationship that we have. So
How
I
does
don't
that
think
have
it's
any relevance to them playing in the game with $3 million of ships, and another guy comes in on day one and goes, hey, he just wrecked me because he's got a starship that is blasting me out of the park, and I have to go and build my ship like a normal MMO experience would be?
Well, again, I mean, you're misinformed on the way that the game is played, which was my original comment to you on Twitter, is that unfortunately, I think you're a little bit ill-informed about the project overall, and I do believe that we're collectively building this Web3 space together. You don't hear us out there disparaging other projects without actually doing some research on them on social media. So what I'm trying to do is educate you on what Animoca's role is. And you called them a VC, and I said it's inaccurate to call them a VC because they do a lot more than that. Now, yes, other people have been buying ships from us. A lot of people have been buying ships, and whether they're VCs or not, where we see one of the biggest opportunities and where we see most of the collective capital right now has nothing to do with venture capital. It has to do with player guilds who are operating these assets. And guilds are massive in MMOs. You said yourself, you played some of the largest over the course of your life. So have I. Going back to EverQuest and Asheron's Call and Dark Age of Camelot and
in
Warhammer
EverQuest,
Online.
could you go and buy your full suite of armor and weapons before the game even started?
EverQuest
Could you do that in WoW?
EverQuest was 1998.
Guild
man.
Wars?
Are we not in a different era?
No, we absolutely are. But I'm saying the precedence still lies that if you sell a whole bunch of assets pre-game, it's going to affect the balance. Like, I don't understand how, like, maybe you have a magic potion, but
Yeah, I mean, it starts with the way that we define risk zones throughout the games and the faction system that we have in place, which is very much a rock, paper, scissors, right? So advantages, disadvantages, pros, cons, depending on where you operate. And we also have 20 plus different career paths in the game, and there's character progression and leveling up. And as I said, loadouts, all of these things impact balance. And also one of the fundamental levers that we can pull on in game balance is the underlying economics. Right. And again, we hire specifically hire across 3 different sub-disciplines of economics, which include game economy, it includes token economy, and then this broader concept of the metaverse economy going forward. So these are all the levers that we can pull on, and we can create balance across the game. And it's not just about who gets the initial assets, which, by the way, are also deriving utility from our first gameplay modal, which is called Faction Fleet. And so it's ebb and flow. We are providing value to the player is providing capital to us through the source of revenue, which allows us to build out this massive vision. And to your earlier point, my last point here is that Star Citizen raised some $400 million and they've been in development for 12 years. Well, we surpassed by far what they ever would have accomplished in the first year, at least in terms of revenue, which gives us the capital base and the finance necessary for us to continue to develop this vision into the long future.
So if I boil down those words about balance, because there was a lot of words about balancing and how many people you have doing it and whatever, but if I boil them down, it sounds like you have plans to nerf these ships that you have already sold in order to keep the balance. Or are they going to be good ships, bad ships?
Oh yeah. So look, we have 144 ship models that are already fully scoped out. We have all of this starts, by the way, with data. Every single ship starts in a spreadsheet. If people aren't aware of that, that's essentially how game development works. Every single ship started in a database with as numbers, right? Now it goes from there. It goes into concept art, and it goes in, obviously modeling, and then animation, then VFX, and sound effects, and all of the things that it takes to get a ship fully produced in an engine like Unreal Engine. We have the ship attributes predefined. So that's how we define balance. I mean, I'm not going to share them, but if you can, for obvious reasons, but if we could share the data tables of what our ship balance looks like, it would be pretty obvious to you that we think extensively about what it takes to create balance between all of the different ship types, not only ship models, but the ship types. So freighters and transporters and fighters and racers and any number of probably 7 or 8 different classifications of ships.
I want to jump into this. I think there should be a collaboration between Illuvium and Star Atlas. This is what we should make happen here, to be honest. That's what should happen right here. Some type of skin, some type of some type of pet inside Star Atlas. I know Star Atlas has pets. Some type of Illuvium pet inside Star Atlas. That would be sick.
Add pets into the scope. Why not? Fuck. Jesus Christ.
Well, we already have pets, actually. We already have pets.
I'm sure you do. I'm absolutely sure you do. I don't know what you don't have, to be honest. But yeah, look, I mean,
thank you.
Honestly, we collaborate with. I mean, I haven't seen any of it, but hey, we've heard about it. But look.
But you talk about a lot of things that you haven't seen or haven't researched, like pretty obviously. So you've heard things, a lot of hearsay.
I mean, dude, all I'd be doing if I was you is putting out some actual gameplay, and I have none of that to look at. So what do you want me to go on? Like, genuinely.
Yeah. Well, what we do is demonstrate progression over time. So, right, this is why we've been releasing these videos.
Coming off a little petty now, like, oh, you have pets. Why do you have pets?
Assets. I do want to clarify, we don't use any Megascan libraries in our game development whatsoever, and I know what you're going to point to, and it's probably that one video we released that had the UE5 mannequin in it. And yes, we do use placeholder assets as we're working through various aspects of the
as well. That's
construction pipelines.
That's I didn't even know you'd release that, but
No, I see a new gameplay. Somebody said on and I'm not trying to take sides here, guys, by the way. Some people are like, oh, you're taking sides, blah, blah, blah. Look, I like Illuvium as much as I like Star Atlas. I like both. They're both my dads. Although Kieran kind of denied me as a dad.
They're both my dads.
But, like, all trolls aside, I respect these two guys very much. I'm not taking any sides. I think, it's 2 different projects, 2 different scopes. And it's fair that, that Kieran has all these questions, to be honest. It's even, it makes me even more bullish on Star Atlas because now, he's applying pressure. It's good. It's good. It's all good pressure at the end of the day. But somebody said that there is some type of like gameplay that just released on Twitter. I don't know if you can call that gameplay, but it's kind of like testing, kind of like the spaceship and et cetera, on the Star Atlas.
Yeah. So that was my last thing, right? And this really irked me. So you've got no gameplay, like for all intents and purposes, you have no gameplay. Like actually, the gameplay that you're suggesting this game is going to have, it's not walking around and looking at a showroom, right? So you have no gameplay, yet the UI is surprisingly polished. Now that would be what I would do if I had no substance behind it, because that's the type of thing that gets a layman who doesn't understand game development, the last thing that you're doing is the UIs, right? You're trying to focus on building the game. Yet there are these really polished UIs on all of these gameplay things that you put out. And that makes me think the marketing department is sitting there like, make it look like we have a game, and they'll not really realize that nothing is actually happening here. And it's really good. Like, you do a really good job of it. And like, can you explain that? Like, why you've spent so much time on UIs and not gameplay?
Yeah, so let's talk through this concept of the content production pipelines and what it takes to build a AAA level game. And in fairness and in full transparency, this is not my specialty, right? I'm the finance and economics guy and helping lead the vision here at Star Atlas. But it's really this incredible team that we have that's obviously helping bring this vision to life. So I'm going to just pull some content that Danny shared with me that kind of speaks through the process of what it takes to bring something like the showroom to life. So the showroom itself, what I'll suggest and where I agree with you is that this is not about the immersive, fully engaging gameplay that we're ultimately getting to. It's a demonstration of capability. It's more than an environment, though. This is part of the process that we use, again, to build the foundational technology that's necessary for us to deliver on that bigger vision in the long term. So staying true to this idea that we're not pulling just from Megascan libraries, which are things like, you know, textures and details and things that you can just drop into UE and get an environment out. We're currently in the process of building out all of our master material libraries. So things like foliage, architectural toilets, sinks, kitchenettes, doors, windows, metals. These are all components that we build from scratch that we can then reuse throughout the rest of the game. And by the way, this idea of like master material libraries or just general material libraries, this is what makes Star Atlas Star Atlas. This is what gives us our unique aesthetic to the gameplay itself. So also on material libraries, working through concrete and asphalt, wood, marble, all of the things that you're seeing in the showroom. Also, by the way, working on the nanite workflow. This is unique to UE5. It's also one of the primary reasons why anybody would want to adopt UE5 because of nanite and lumen. I know you guys just made the transition or you're looking to adopt it, which means you're probably going to need to refactor a lot of your models to be able to be compatible with nanite models and the high poly version and low resource requirements. Nanite is, no team has experience with nanite. It just came out. So even Spearsoft is learning how to work with nanite right now and the complications that introduced. So we're refining that pipeline, our character pipelines, patterns, colors, material attributes, the number of polys per character, working with metahumans, our photo mode, our cinematic mode, all of our UI, our VFX that you referred to. These pipelines are in production right now. Lighting, decal textures, transition materials, our audio. Which is both material and spatial audio.
I'm struggling to find the relevance to this answer. I asked you why you have gone so hard on your UI. Your UI is like 20 times further ahead than your gameplay. And my thing is, if you look at my overworld, the UI is a piece of shit, right? Sorry, Florian, if you're listening. And it's because we're using basic shitty elements because they don't matter. What matters is movement. It's things like dynamic, actual, like, I mean,
the point of this is that we don't take your approach because we do want to build AAA. And so it means that all of these components that go into the foundation of what we're building require expert detail and attention to precise detail in how we build. And so these content production pipelines are the fundamental component of all of that. And until we get those done, we're not going to roll stuff out. Now, you might have identified the UI component, but if you were actually walking around in that showroom, what you would see is that the cracks in the concrete are real and they're modeled and they're not a texture. What you would see is that transition materials are customized specifically to us, that the locomotion engine that we use, well, Lyra is the base locomotion engine in Unreal Engine 5, has been customized to our characters. The things like physics of ships and movement and sway and camera, those have been customized to us. Now, you might not see.
Where are we seeing that?
You're not seeing it. That's the entire point. You see it.
I'm saying people like me, people like me who are building games, right? People in mainstream are saying Your
might hear
movement of your character
choice words
is janky as fuck.
soon. I don't know.
Instead of fixing that, but what I'm saying is like
This is what we're working on.
Your UI first approach is
It's
to
not
tell
UI
people.
first. That's what you just because that's what you notice. What I'm telling you is what we're working on right now, which is why like building an environment like this for us is critical.
It's a lot of assumptions coming out from like Kieran's side, and not necessarily like based in fact.
Well, then we obviously get to
yeah, I would say he's got some fair points. I think both sides have fair points. I think it's just two different approaches to how they're developing each other's games.
Going into the future.
I wouldn't say neither approach is actually correct. You know, it could do it however you do it.
Right.
Polished and beautiful, and it is. Completely agree with you. But all of these other things that maybe you don't notice as a detail are things that we're working on. And I'm explaining right now what it is that we're working on.
Fair enough. So I guess my counterpoint to that is, if that's the case and we're 10 months in, are we a little bit ambitious thinking that 3 to 5 years you're going to have some playable PvP battles with ships going and raiding other towns and stuff, when you've got a janky model that's running around a well set dress and good UI in 10 months when you have 200 people working on this? Like that's what I'm getting at. Like the scope of this is ridiculously big. Like I don't even think you understand that. Like genuinely.
No, I do completely understand it, because this is what I spend all day, every day on, even through the weekends. And I only listed, by the way, I mean, I'm sure you didn't want to hear the rest of it, but I only listed about half the things that we're actually working on, content production pipelines. So also things related to ships and multiplayer. And by the way, speaking of building out fundamental technology, we also developed an SDK that we call the Foundation SDK, which is the first Solana native integration into Unreal Engine. This hasn't been done before. We as a company, we actually work across 5 different product lines, and UE is just one of those. Our WebGL-based 3D web game is another one of those. Infrastructure and architecture is a third. It's kind of like standard setting, if you will. We also have a mobile division, and then clearly one of our core product lines, which we think is absolutely essential to things like P2P transactions, is the marketplace program that we rolled out. And all of this is obviously encapsulated by the DAO and the governance structure behind all of that. So yes, there's a lot that's being worked on. But again, I'm here for the long term, man. Nobody's like trying to overhype this. We are very, very open and honest about where we are in our state of development, which is why we always provide roadmap updates on a weekly basis, and why I personally appear on town halls with our community in an open Q&A format every 3 weeks. And we do it on a 3-week basis, because that's when it's the week following the week that I get all of the engineering demos. So I understand where we're at on the progression of development. So that's our format, man. And again, if it takes longer, it takes longer. But the reality is we could not be spending more time or more passionate about what we're building. That period. That's it. Right. And we're not trying to overpromise and underdeliver. We're doing the opposite. We're trying to underpromise and overdeliver. That is our goal.
I mean, I get that, right? Like it's surprising. I think the narrative has changed a little bit as you get further away. And I know so is ours, right? Like it's easy for it to do that. You add more to the scope, all that kind of stuff. Saying, in interviews, we're going to get our first module out of real gameplay in 2022. That's no chance going to happen, right? Like that's not even close to going to happen. And that's my problem. You're sitting here saying, yes, it's going to be 3 to 5 years. We're not overpromising, but then there's been videos which people have shared with me, like my game devs, who go, what industry are we in here? Like you can be a VC and just put a trailer together and then say you're building things in a space game by 2022. It's like, which one is it? And I don't know. I don't want to go into the whole detail of like, let's go through each video and what you're saying. If you're literally out there saying to people who've spent $200 million that they're not going to be able to play those NFTs in potentially 5 years, then too good, right? Your narrative and your marketing is so good that people are willing to bet on a IP coming out double as fast as a game that's got double the resources and 10 times the experience. Too good, right? Like that, you win that battle. But I just don't think that's the case. And I don't think if you went and asked that the purchases of that $200 million worth of NFTs, I don't think they would know nor appreciate or appreciate that it is now potentially going to be 5 years before they can use those NFTs.
Okay.
And I don't mean a little screen game like a browser type game. I mean your MMO.
No. As an investor, Kagi Jan right here. I went into Star Atlas knowing what I was going into, just so you understand. And there's a lot of people like me. And I was very clear. I even played Star Citizen to compare on live. While Star Atlas was selling spaceships, I played Star Citizen so that people could see, hey, this is what it takes. These people took 10 years, you know. I gave people perspective, you know, when I was talking about Star Atlas. I knew what I was going to. And I think a lot of people in Star Atlas have that vision where it's like, we don't care. We want to make this game happen because this is a massive, massive vision. And I don't think it's also, and this is just me kind of defending Star Atlas here a little bit. I don't think it's Star Atlas's job to now educate every single person that buys a spaceship and tell them, hey, yo, you won't be able to use it, right? You won't be able to use it like tomorrow. Like, come on, man. Like, are you kidding me? Like, you know,
but we do actually.
You gotta believe in the vision too. You know?
Some good points raised.
Yeah,
not bad.
And that is, I would say by and large, just again, I'm very interactive with the community, and that, like, I think people do understand this, right? And we've been very consistent in our communications. Now, have we missed timelines? Have I overestimated? Sure. Like, fault me for that if you'd like. We are ambitious and we'd like to hit certain goals and certain targets, and maybe we underperform at times, but that's not for lack of trying. It's because we operate in an incredibly complex space. To your point, not only is it very innovative and difficult to build a AAA quality game, but couple that with the fact that we're building all of this on-chain logic, that we're building multiple smart contracts to interact with the game economy, with the game logic itself, right? Layer that into infrastructure and architectural development of tools that are necessary so that you can play seamlessly with crypto in Unreal Engine. Like, these are all challenging things. Now, the way that we develop our development methodology is, again, clear and consistent communications and what our objectives are and best estimates for timelines. We've always said, by the way, these are projections. There's no guarantee that we hit these dates. We're not promising we hit these dates. We think we can do it in this time, but it's very possible and probabilistic that we will miss timelines, especially from time to time. However, how we develop this out, where we provide consistent value, is first and foremost, hey, we launched Faction Fleet. This is a place where you can utilize those ship NFTs and start earning today. Play to earn economy is activated now. People are making Atlas today.
Once again, that's your browser game that is not your MMO and not what people thought they were buying the NFTs for. But anyway,
no, it's precisely what people believe to be. They're happy with the fact that they're deriving utility from their NFTs today. And we also have the next. Like, people are incredibly excited about our browser-based game as well, because we have a release of that that should be coming this year. Operative word, should be coming this year, and I'll just qualify it again. But that should be coming this year, and it's also immersive, and it's 3D, and it's territory control, and it's the next step. Right? But we've always said, by the way, I've been consistent. This is 5 to 7 years. 3 years would be the most optimistic I could ever be about delivering game, and it would require a lot of things to be favorable to us, including generating a lot of revenue and us being able to scale a team rapidly enough to deliver on all these things. But ultimately, 5 to 7 years has always been my messaging to the community, but it's also been, we are going to produce components. And as we produce components, these modules, you get to interact with those. And we continue to enhance gameplay. Now, you as a player, for the first time in history, get an opportunity to get a peek behind the curtains. You get to see this development process, and you get to engage with a game as it's developing instead of waiting 10 years. Starfield looks amazing, by the way. And that's a game that's been in development for 10 years. So we are not naive to the fact that these things take a long time, especially with the added complexity of the way that we build on-chain mechanics. But obviously our goal is what our goal is. The vision is not going to be reduced. It's probably only going to be expanded over time. And in my opinion, we've been executing quite well and delivering.
Fair enough.
Now let's put an end to this. All right. Illuvium, what is next for Illuvium? What is next for Illuvium? And then Star Atlas, what is next for Star Atlas? Let's put an end to this. I think my perspective here is that you guys are both building in different ways. Kieran doesn't agree in the way you're building. He thinks that you're building UI. There's some things that should be built first, and you think you're building the right way, Michael. At the end of the day, two different ways of building. I do see Kieran's point. Star Atlas, massive vision. People got to understand that they're buying into something that is huge, huge, huge. But nonetheless, I am down to stick by Star Atlas. I don't care. I want to see this through. Nobody's attempting this, and nobody has a better, nobody's better position to make a massive vision like this happen. There's a lot of them out there saying.
I tell you what. If you could pull it off with where your token price is now, not financial advice, but every investor is going to be a very, very rich man. But yeah, I obviously I have my reservations and doubts.
Yeah, we did look into that as well, and for what it's worth, we outperform you guys. Not that I want to get into anything speculation related.
Gloves are coming off,
especially with your guys' vesting starting to unlock now in June. But with that being said, honestly, I think this is a healthy exercise. Kieran, whatever however controversial it was that we came here, I do respect you as a CEO, as a founder, as a builder, knowing that you're an entrepreneur. I do want to extend, no hard feelings from my standpoint. I'm glad we had the conversation. I do want to extend an offer for us to collaborate at some point in the future if there's any interest. Again, I wasn't trying to diminish you guys with the mini game concept. We have this idea of tangential worlds, but it's interconnected metaverse entry points. And so if there's any way that our players can interact with one another and there is interoperability,
I think Illuvium
totally
could use like a hover
that is what
bike
we are
to get
building
around,
in Web3 for, is this idea of interoperability. So extend an olive branch to you and would totally be authentic.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you what, if you guys can, once you get to gameplay, because we can't partner up with someone that we are doubtful that they can deliver, right? Because then we're going to be screwed as well. We don't want our brand tainted by partnerships like that. And so when you get to the stage where you've got actual gameplay, and my game devs who have been building games for 15, 20 years go, okay, I actually think that this can be delivered, then 100% we'll happily jump on board. But this is not a personal attack against you or anything like that. I would be doing this with anyone that had pulled in as many players or potential players as you guys have that I'm concerned about. It's nothing personal. So yeah, if we do get to that stage and maybe you say, screw you, you should have partnered with us 2 years ago. Now we're here. Maybe that happens. But yeah, I'm about protecting our investors in our community.
Now, Kieran, what's next for Illuvium? Because you guys have a beta right now. What's next?
Yeah, so we got quite a few things. So we're going to open up the beta to 25,000 people. We've got 11,000 that are playing at the moment. That's survival mode. Then we've got the Illuvium Alpha coming out. That's super delayed at the moment, which is not great. But the reason for that delay is we don't want to launch something that isn't AAA. So we've done a massive, massive overhaul on the graphics and a bunch of gameplay and UI elements. And so that's going to launch very, very soon. And then you've got the private beta 2, which introduces a ton more characters for you to play with and a bunch of other features. Cool. And then eventually Overworld later in the year.
Yeah. And let me ask you a question, bro, because a lot of people, including myself, I know you guys are having an open world. This is what I'm in Illuvium for, honestly, the open world. I see myself like just hanging out, trying to capture Illuvials, just et cetera, et cetera. Are you guys planning to make this MMO? I know a lot of people want it. I know you guys have a DAO or some type of system where people can vote. I know that it's very important, for that to go through the system, although I'm pretty sure you can also propose that in the system. Is that something you're thinking about? Like, because we want
that. As I said, they're the games that I probably spent the most amount of time on, and I've played a lot of sports games as well. So yeah, an MMO for me, either that or a MOBA. But again, you're talking, if we go MMO, that's an expansion that's going to take 5 years plus. And even a MOBA, it's going to take a long, long time. And we've proven now that we can deliver at an extremely fast pace. Like that beta coming out in the whatever it was, the 15 months or before it was released, like that is super fast. So but yeah, at the same time, these things are huge scope and they'll take time, and yeah, we got to get the council to approve it, as you know.
Michael, what about you? What about Star Atlas? What's next for Star Atlas? And let us know about the DAO, because I'm not sure you guys have implemented the DAO, and this is something that we can go into another conversation about, right? Because there's two different theories about when to launch a DAO. Some people say you don't want to launch a DAO too quick. If you launch a DAO too quick, you might take your game in a different direction, or your project in a different direction before you even get the foundation. But then Kieran went ahead, and Avagachi as well launched their DAO right away. As soon as their game kind of like launched, they had it up and running. So maybe you have a different like perspective, and I know a lot of people have your perspective of launching DAOs a little bit later, right? So,
yeah, I mean, we think a lot about this idea of the path to decentralization, which is formulating the strategy of turning over control of the ecosystem over time and what that looks like. Maybe let me just start by recapping our 426 live event that we just hosted. And through that process, we actually rolled out 4 kind of key announcements, if you will. The first was the launch of our new marketplace program, and coupled with that is the launch of an affiliate or referral program for users. It's called StarPath. So that's kind of like rewards for referring users and the ability to redeem those rewards for ships or assets across the ecosystem. We did roll out the first version of the Star Atlas DAO.
That demo
so this
looks pretty
first
sick, though.
functionality is
ship and
focused
everything.
primarily on locking of tokens and some reward emissions as a result of that. But coming next,
Dude, that battleship in the background, sick.
We're going to be adding a component for Atlas locking as well. Again, thinking thoroughly through
This just
tokenomics
gets me
and creating
excited
value
to play
utility across
Starfield.
the entirety of the ecosystem. But we're also focused heavily on the discourse, which is the forum where communications will take place, and the proposal and the voting mechanisms. Now, and then the fourth is that we did announce a partnership relationship with iBuyPower. So iBuyPower is one of the largest PC manufacturers in the world, and we're doing. King is a member of the community. He's also a representative at IVP, and so this was Santi, our head of community, kind of brought this relationship in, and it just made a lot of sense for us. It's not so much about marketing. It's just they're supportive. We're supportive of what they're doing. So we're doing some co-branded stuff. But with respect to the DAO itself, adding this functionality over time, what we're also doing right now, not only through the establishment of the Star Atlas Foundation, but Dan Park on our team, so he's general counsel, but he thinks a lot about the whole concept of decentralized governance. So we're forming a constitution. We're forming pretty much the DAO bylaws, and then we created what we call the PIP system, or the Polis Improvement Proposal System, and it's through this process that new proposals get introduced and ultimately ratified, and we make any changes necessary to the protocol. So this, to your point, could be an entire extended conversation around philosophy of decentralized governance and what the implications are for a project. Our broad approach is to provide less control to the user initially, because it is a big vision. It's going to take a lot of coordination. It's going to take a lot of time. We kind of need the authority, if you will, to develop this in the fashion that we feel is most appropriate, but communicating openly with the public. So, and then we'll make some continuous improvements to the marketplace. That's just from the last 426 event. Coming up, it should be in August, actually, we're hosting the next product launch event. We'll figure out what format that's in, whether it's on Twitch or Discord. But during this, we have a couple of major things coming up. It's the showroom module that will be officially released as a pre-alpha state. We have our graphic novel. So this is kind of comic book format, if you will, but it's lore, it's background, it's story that leads into modern era Star Atlas in the year 2620. We also have updates to the Atlas locking, and then again, continuous development around the DAO. And then there's some special stuff in there that we're going to be including as well. So that's coming up. And then a little bit later this year, probably the most anticipated release of the year is actually not our Unreal Engine client, because it is early stage, but it is actually this 3D enabled, WebGL game that we're building in Play Canvas that's going to be launched in the browser. And this is all the territory control component of it. So it's modeled, I would say, similar to Stellaris, not a direct replica, but it's all, resource gathering and star-based construction and star-based capturing and destruction. And then it's an open map PvP format. So all players actually across the Star Atlas ecosystem, which, we have 100,000 people that are currently daily engaging with our faction fleet module. So we would expect probably a similar number of users, maybe less just because it's more time intensive, but a similar number of users to actually interact with our, we call it Project Scream today. Ship configuration, resource extraction, and missions was the original idea. That's changed a little bit, but in any event, that's kind of the most anticipated release of the year because it activates the economy. Ultimately we get crafting, we get ship configuration, and we get that PvP, the fun territory control and battle that people are looking for. So that's kind of the rest of the year for us.
Perfect. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this was very, very fun. For me, it was really, I came to do this as a joke, to be honest. Some people are like mad in chat, like, oh, moderator, shut up, do this, do that, blah, 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 this and that. Look, honestly, this was all a joke in reality on Twitter, and then it kind of became a little bit more serious, and real concerns were brought up here, and I hope all of you kind of understand both sides, and let's see what happens. Let's see what happens down the line. I'm gonna keep supporting both projects, Illuvium and Star Atlas. As always, I support many projects. I am the YouTuber that supports the most projects out there. More than 30 projects I'm invested in. I'm invested in more than 30, 40 projects, and I do content for them. So, I kind of know a little bit of everything out here. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys want to follow Star Atlas
I would have
Twitter,
liked
go ahead,
Matt to
Star
kind
Atlas.
of question Kieran a little bit more, but instead he just kind
I'm gonna
of
do the same
answered the question, and
well.
I kind of wish there was more back and forth, but of course in a more cordial way. But
Go follow them.
I wish I
see what they're
saw
up
a
to.
little bit more. We saw a little bit more
like
of
both
that.
Projects. You guys should stop hating on the
Yeah,
moderator.
it definitely felt more like
absolute
a
god.
interrogation.
To be
on Star
fair,
Atlas
like you
and,
can hate all you
more of a
want, but
debate
he's the
on
one
the two
who
projects.
drew this debate out of crypto Twitter, and he's probably, there's not many people willing to put their brand on the line for this type of thing. So I really appreciate it. I think everyone else should. I don't think there's any other content creators that would have been able to muster up two CEOs to go toe-to-toe like this. So yeah, I think you did a really good job, and you're not a professional moderator, so
Hey, bro, now you're taking shots at me. I'm not professional. He did a good job. Bro, I am the best moderator out there ever existed in the world. I should have a statue in Illuvium and Star Atlas. That's all
I think maybe Hustle should host the next one.
But anyways, let me put your Twitters real quick so people can follow you guys.
That'd be quite an event.
Right here
I don't know if I could stir the pot quite like Kagi did, but he's like the perfect guy to host this type of thing, to be fair.
Thank you guys for watching. Here,
true.
Twitter for Kieran. Much love. All right, guys.
Yeah, while you're doing that,
Thanks
just thanks, Kagi. Again, I just want to say a big thank you to the community. I know a bunch of Star Atlas communities listening in. I know a bunch of the Star Atlas team is listening in. So big shout out to you guys. You absolutely crush it. Appreciate all the work that you do. Wouldn't be here without you. But Kieran, hey man, appreciate the time, and I think these are healthy for the ecosystem. So thanks again, Kagi.
100%.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks,
Bye,
Kagi.
guys.
See you guys. Bye.
Wow, so it looks like it's over. Jorge, you there, man? Are you gonna mute, unmute and things like that? But yeah, curious what everybody's thoughts were. Kind of to recap that, like it did seem Kieran, came in quite hot. Matt answered a lot of questions there. Yeah, like I'm curious what everybody thinks here. Like, who won?
Yeah,
Was there any winners in this? Just losers, or what's your thoughts?
Look, first thing first, I'm glad it was cordial and it wasn't like, mother F this, da 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 da. Like I'm very happy that it went that way, right? So I'm happy in that first. The second part is that, I think we heard a lot of almost Star Atlas defending itself or explaining the Star Atlas, where I would have liked it to be more of two-sided, right? Like, what else is Illuvium doing, and what else they're building on that stage. But it's okay. Like, you know, like, look, this is the first, I think, hopefully, first of many more spaces that we do that that Kagi holds, and hopefully there'll be more of it. But I don't think there's any like winners, because there wasn't really to say like there wasn't one. It wasn't a toe-to-toe battle, right? It was more of explaining what everybody's doing and where they're working on. So I think on that level, I think that there's no way to really rule out who had a better thing. It's just more of explaining what they're doing. Kazi, what did you think?
By the way, real quick, welcome Hustlepedia, man. We got him here on the show. Just wanted to introduce him real quick, but great to have you on.
Happy to be here. Yeah, I think it's an interesting discussion to have. One thing I will say, and it was very cordial. I was actually impressed that they didn't start throwing super low blows, but I will say Kieran was definitely the one throwing lower blows. It felt like here and there. You know, he was definitely the one trying to dig into Star Atlas. It felt like more than Star Atlas was trying to dig into Illuvium. I definitely didn't like that approach. Just, you know, technically speaking, we're all here to move Web3 gaming forward, but at the same time, good points all around the board. And I think Michael did a good job of, you know, combating some of the, I would say, lower blow comments that were thrown his way.
Kaz, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think Michael had I think Michael just, you know, just did what he came to do, was talk about his project. I think he took the stance of he doesn't know all that about Illuvium, and he didn't care to actually dig in more, because he didn't want to come off as like kind of uninformed. I think that was like the main thing, and you know, I would say it's expected if you're the CEO and the founder of a massive project. I necessarily don't think you have too much time keeping up with every little incremental detail of another project. So I think, you know, that's kind of the thing. And I definitely agree with what Johnny just said, that there was a lot of low blows, I think, coming from the Illuvium side, like about like the pets and like the UI. I mean, even at the UI, I mean, I would imagine there's someone's job who's specifically there to make user interfaces, and maybe that guy made it really well. You know, we don't really know. So I think it's better to not come off making public assumptions like that. So I definitely agree with kind of what Johnny had to say.
Yeah, I mean, go for it, Johnny.
I was just going to say, I kind of thought it was about to get ugly at the very end, though. I'm not going to lie. When Kieran pulled the token price comment, I was like, uh-oh, what are we about to get into here? But it didn't spin off into something too deep. Go ahead, Jorge.
Yeah, look, I mean, to that comment, right? The whole market's down 90% or whatever, right? I mean, like, I hate when anytime we start talking about tokens and where we are. I mean, like, the whole market, I mean, even the equities market is suffering. So it's hard to say, like, you know, it's because of your game is not that great or whatever. So I'm a little, you know, biased on the comment. But I know we brought on some other guests here, and I wanted to introduce everybody. I think now we're going to be able to finally go into the after panel. We have stay tuned, everybody. We have really cool guests coming towards the middle end of all this. And I'll start from right to left, I guess. Again, we got Johnny from Crypto Banter, Hustlepedia. He's got his own project going on right now. Then we have, I think to your right is going to be, who do I have to your right? I apologize, because on your right, it's different on the back screen.
So everybody's mixed up for me too. So
yeah, I got Star Atlas hat.
I'm on his right. That's me. That's Metaverse Explorer. I'm on his right.
Yeah, Metaverse Explorer, and then who's to the right of Metaverse Explorer then?
That's Funcracker, Ronald Tool.
Yeah, Funcracker. That's why. Unmute and say what's going on. Tell us a quick 10-second about you, and what did you like about the debate?
Yeah, Funcracker, we can't hear your mic, so you might have to go to your settings.
All right. Funcracker, you got rugged. Metaverse, tell me a little 10 seconds. What did you think about the debate? And,
am I here?
What we need in the space.
Yeah, Funcracker, you can go. Your mic's working now.
Yeah, well, I was muted by the director, so sue him. I don't know what it is, but anyway, sorry, I did now kind of miss the question due to that.
Yeah, no. What do you think after all this talk? You know, what do you think Web3 really needs after hearing these guys talk? Like, it seems like that we need better explanation, or maybe better content, or better maybe this is needed where the CEOs have to come on more and live on spaces and really educate the people, the investors, the guilds, the users, everybody, to have a better understanding of what's happening. So I think that there's less of this like, hey, questioning of what's happening behind the scenes, right?
I don't think we really got to learn anything about Web3 that much, just about some people's opinions on how games should be developed and how you should market them, and at what stage you're allowed to potentially sell NFTs and all that kind of stuff. I mean, just one opinion, so I don't really want to say that we have been educated on that aspect, but I mean, this for me was like, I mean, this was actually the kind of the worst case scenario for me personally. I really hope that despite the bickering on Twitter, they would kind of come together and perhaps discuss more their individual progress with their projects and the things they have in common. And of course, there could still be a few sharper or edgier remarks, but hopefully all in good faith. And this was actually exactly what I hoped it would not be. Just Kieran primarily attacking. I mean, I have to agree, decently mostly throughout, right? But nonetheless, it was just Michael defending and having to come back to that. And I don't really think anybody learned anything here, except that Kieran has a very strong opinion. And apparently thinks that the way they design, they make the games is the way to do it. And yeah, I don't really think we've learned much on Web3, which I kind of hope this would bring. I really hope this would bring more synergy and more common ground being painted for the people, like what is Web3 about, or Web3 games about, but really none of that was present, I'm afraid.
Yeah, and I think we also have TSG. So TSG, what did you think of on the Illuvium side? I mean, I think as a content creator, what do you want to take out of this to start working on for this week's content?
Oh man, a lot of content. No, it's actually wild. I'm actually curious because I'm looking at some of the content, and essentially they're saying that it wasn't a debate, and even saying it wasn't, like, I don't know, maybe it's an Australian thing. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, we can hear you.
Cool. Yeah, maybe it's an Australian thing, but I.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, his stream froze.
Oh no.
TSG's oh, there he goes. He's gone.
He's got right.
Yeah, Australians are actually way more straightforward, and they're super blunt. So if you're not like Australian, we ought to get Asako Matt back in here to really translate that Australian for us here. But
I'm Australian.
Oh well, there you are, right there. Like, what's your thoughts on that? Like, is there like? Yeah, like, could you tell us a little bit more insight there?
Yeah, sure. So, yes, I would slightly agree that, yes, Australian might be a bit more straightforward, but Kieran just, like, came out punching and just not, like, low blows, as you guys were saying, and just every time he kept punching, I could see that, oh, no, what are you doing, Matt? What are you doing? So, yes, this was not a debate for me, to be honest. Ronald Tour Cracker said, this was the worst case scenario. I don't think it was the worst case scenario. I think, to be honest, and full transparency, I am a Star Atlas content creator. I think like this is better for Star Atlas because we got to get a whole bunch of Illuvium people who got to see their founder not being prepared for an interview, coming in with stats and stuff that he has superficially looked at, YouTube comments, like really, and coming in with a perspective of this is how you should build a game. You're not doing it the way we're doing it, so it's wrong. That's what I got from this, and that's what I'm gonna leave it there.
Yeah, look, I think everybody's look. I don't think everyone is ever going to agree with anybody, whatever everybody says. I think there always have to be two different opinions, or even more than that. And so I think like, to respect anybody's opinion, I respect Kieran's opinion, I respect Wagner's opinion. I don't expect them to have the same opinion, or else we wouldn't be in the space right now. We wouldn't be having this kind of space right now. And so I think like, I kind of want to hear what like Hustle, what are you going to say about like what you're thinking of this week's content on what GameFi needs? I think me and you have some great content for our spaces coming forward, but I want to kind of hear what you're thinking about after this debate.
Yeah, I agree. It really wasn't anything about Web3 gaming whatsoever. It was just feeling like people were trying to pick holes in the other's game plan and strategy, team, the way that they're building interfaces. A lot of that stuff was just kind of like, all right, come on now. Can we like talk about some productive stuff at least to try to push this thing forward a little bit? But in my opinion, it got a little, like you said earlier in the week, Jorge, you said this on the spaces, or you said this on a message to me, and you said it kind of felt like Do Kwon versus Alex Mashinsky in a way, right? Like two people who are doing things and they think that they're both really doing things right, but they want to come at the other or be ignorant maybe to the fact that they could have some flaws in their armor and in their operations, right? I don't think any Web3 game is perfect at this point. So for anyone to think that their development process is so far ahead of another team's, when both teams I would be willing to say are phenomenal, and having spoke to both sides, I have no ill will towards either side. We definitely have some great content to speak about as far as the Twitter spaces, but I just think this is it was unnecessary, and I think it really helped. I think this was better for Star Atlas than it was for Illuvium. If there was a winner from the debate, I would say that Star Atlas got better cred from that than Illuvium did, just because of
we
how
got to disagree.
defensive. I feel just how defensive Kieran was. It just felt like he was trying to stir the pot way harder than anyone else. Michael was there more to have a conversation, and I could tell that from the surface at least. So that's my opinion.
All right, we got to cut to TSG here in a second, but to kind of like I would kind of agree with that sentiment there. But one thing I will say is I did kind of like Kieran kind of pushing Matt to kind of answer some of the more difficult questions. I do like to see those difficult questions answered. Now, I don't like to see it in that style of format, if you will. I think there definitely was some heat there, but I don't know if that was necessary or not. But I did respect that the questions were being answered. But I would have liked Matt to kind of push back a little bit and maybe ask Kieran some questions, so we would have got like a little bit more perspective on both sides, and like as you mentioned, Hustle, like more discussion around Web3, the future of Web3, how mainstream users are going to be onboarded into both of these games. I really would have liked them to explore those topics in more in depth and their strategies and roadmaps behind that specifically. But
when you say Matt, you mean Michael, right?
Yeah, Michael.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I think to be I think we have our next guest coming on soon. So I'm gonna say, Funcracker, what's one thing that I think you want to work on the Star Atlas side for the upcoming content that you think Web3 will really need it? And after hearing all these kind of talks, I'm a big component of education, right? And so it seems like again, it's just education is going to be a little bit more what's needed in the space.
Yeah, I completely agree. So education is definitely something we are working on quite hard, and I know the status team is doing that as well. But of course, besides education, the whole on-ramping process just still needs to be smoothed more as well. I know a whole ton of parties are busy doing that. I think that is quite crucial. And with respect to, I think the DAOs, I think it was also mentioned earlier here, not just education and more tooling for the DAOs would definitely help to get people up to speed with how those operate and to be able to use them in a very straightforward way. There's so much to do. I mean, on so many different fields. That's just, I'm looking greatly forward to contributing that and seeing that happen as well.
Yeah, thank you. And then TSG, I know you have some closing remarks. What did you have to say before you got rugged?
Yeah. Man, that's wild, because I'm kind of glad I got rugged so I could hear what everyone else's opinions were. That's, okay. I'll try to be like somewhat diplomatic. But it's wild to me that apparently the consensus is that Star Atlas won that debate. Like, that's just, so like, it's just so fascinating that we both have like a few of us have different perspectives, right? So first off, about the debate itself, it seems like a couple of us here were were expecting something else out of the debate. I don't know. I kind of went in with it thinking that it was going to be not a Web3 gaming debate. It was going to be a Star Atlas versus Illuvium debate, essentially, kind of coming at like project for project, going at it that way. So that didn't really surprise me. And maybe I think if someone had gone into it with a different expectation, they might have been swayed by what was happening. Also, in regards to like, I can't say it for everyone, but I know in Australian culture, we are very like passionate, aggressive. That is just what it is. So I know it could be a bit of a turnoff the way Kieran does speak about things, but it is with good intention. I can't speak for him, but I can speak based on the culture of the country that I'm from. It's usually with good intention. As for the actual who won the debate, and the debate that I came into expecting about each other trying to poke holes in each other's project, I think Kieran was the one that was the aggressor, and obviously he had to be based on what we saw on Twitter. And the reason that I say that I think Illuvium won that was there weren't really any holes poked on the Illuvium project. And again, I'm not shitting on Star Atlas by any means. I'm just speaking objectively on what I think I saw, or I guess it's subjective. But it didn't seem like there were any holes poked in the Illuvium project at all. It was Kieran poking holes in Star Atlas, and there were, I think the only real time that I heard Michael give a straight answer was the first question about the team. Everything else seemed like it was a lot of dodging questions and not giving straight answers. And to me, in a debate, that just seems like not the winning play. And maybe I'm outnumbered by the Star Atlas guys here, but that's just in a normal debate. If you ask someone, yo, what's the weather like? And they say, oh, in this weather, you need to wear an umbrella for this and this. And so the viewer's left confused, right? That's not how you win a debate. But if I am mistaken, I'd like any one of you guys to put your hand up and correct me, please. I'm open to being corrected.
Can I?
Yeah, no, look, I think, like I said, it was a little one-sided on what one. I think like there should be like part two, right, where it's like, okay, now somebody gets to ask the other side of the question. Then, like when you asked about poking the holes, I think it was again more of a one-sided approach. And look, it was set up like that, right? If you really remember how this all came about, was because one was poking holes at another. And so essentially it was kind of like a defense match in the sense of like the way that this whole thing came about. But you know, like at the end of the day, like to be honest with you, I thought I really learned a lot in the sense of what it takes to develop a lot of these games, the time period, what it takes for personnel, you know, a lot of like, hey, like, you know, the content that they have to put out and why they're very meticulous about wanting to put certain content out to, again, to those that are developers that really know more about this than I do, than to catch the eye on certain things in these trailers. So there is a lot of components that I think there was a learning segment up from it, especially I think from a Star Atlas side, that what it takes to build a game like that. And I think to clarify, I think he did clarify that his game is going to take 5 or 7 years. And look, I think even the point of the $200 million that me and Kyle were talking about, $200 million is a lot, right? And so, like, to that point, I never realized it. Like, Michael made it more aware for us is that, you know, you raise $200 million for a project he's trying to be very ambitious on in 5 to 7 years, and then you have Star Citizens that did $400 million in 10 years. That actually math that math does make sense on why it's more ambitious. So look, I think he cleared up a lot of things for me on my end on the Star Atlas side. I think you know, I'm grateful in that sense. So I understand it fully going forward. I know that we also have Johnny. What's your thoughts on all this? Before we
when I was looking at the debate, I really wasn't thinking of who was coming out as a clear-cut winner. I don't think, like whenever I was coming into it, I just kind of wanted to see what both sides' approaches were to this conversation more so. And, you know, you could definitely tell, I feel Kieran was the aggressor as far as trying to poke holes in the other's project. And I feel like, you know, Michael did come to the debate ready to answer a lot of questions, and we'll see if that timeline develops, right? I think they're just on different timelines. They're doing things differently, and they might not agree with the way that they've gone about business so far, but I think we're all probably in agreement that these two project successes really have a lot of weight on the whole industry. I mean, if Illuvium and Star Atlas don't pull through to the level that we all think that they will and can, I think that could be a big negative for the industry. So I think at the end of the day, I wouldn't say that there's a winner of the debate, in my opinion. I just think that I would have loved to see a little more positivity, at least, between the two gentlemen, maybe at the very end, at the very least, on like, how can we push this thing forward, right? But I get it, and all's fair in love and war, right? So I completely see that side of things, and I'm interested to see where this goes in the future.
Yo, if it's cool, I'd like to pose a question to all the other guys on the panel. Essentially, like, so the thing is, like, again, because I agree with you, Hustle, like about wanting both projects to do well. Like, I'm obviously more sided with Illuvium, but I'm not like stupid. Like, I want more projects to be out. This, like, the idea of what Star Atlas is wanting to build, if they really pull that off, that's going to be insane. Like, that's going to be something that we haven't seen before. So I'd be an absolute idiot to kind of say, oh man, I want that to fail. That's just ridiculous. So with that in mind, like, wanting both things to actually be successful, and let's take some historical facts into consideration, right? So if we look at something like Cyberpunk, that's probably the best example that I can think of off the top. That was in development for like 9 years, and even after 9 years, they botched the release. Star Atlas, and the scope of Star Atlas, is so much more than Cyberpunk. So when we say, and that's 9 years, right? So let's say that we both want them to succeed. If with Illuvium, the thing that I like about Illuvium is that the scope of Illuvium isn't crazy. Like, they're not promising us an insane thing that's never been done before. It's being done. They're just polishing it, refining it, and making it slightly better. And it seems like it's doable. And it seems like it's doable in a shorter period of time, not 5 years. And it could be 5 years. I could be wrong. But let's say that one takes 5 years, the other one takes, let's say, 9 years. Let's use CD Projekt Red. The one that's longer inherently has more chances and probability of, or more breakpoints, right? Because it's the time frame is much longer. So I want to ask each of you guys, like, as much as we wanted to succeed, like, understanding the scope of the time frame, what they're actually trying to do, and everything they're trying to accomplish, what do you think is the probability that they are actually going to make it? And I understand we're in a crypto space, not financial advice, we're not fudding or hyping, whatever it is, just being objective. Like, what do you guys think the probability of them actually, like, cementing themselves and accomplishing what they're saying in a scope of 5 to 10 years? Because that's a hard thing to accomplish for anyone or any project.
Yeah, can I comment? I would like to comment on that briefly.
Now, I don't know who wants to take down. That's a pretty loaded question.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, this is interesting. So I just want to say, so with Cyberpunk 2077, right? I mean, that was a waterfall kind of process. So that took 9 years to develop, and then it was published and done. And well, not really done, as we now know, but Star Atlas is taking an iterative approach, right? So they're not going to be in a bunker for 7 years and then bam, there's the game. They're already creating smaller modules and adding to that gradually over the years. And what I think is...
did I disconnect or?
No, we can still hear.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you too.
All right.
Okay, cool.
Did no one want to take that? I'm just curious.
I'm taking.
Yeah, he's talking right now.
I'm taking.
Oh shit.
Yep, I'm taking.
Yeah,
anyway,
go ahead, continue.
I'll move on. So Star Atlas is actually working on 2 separate parallel paths, right? So one is they're creating the full game in Unreal Engine, and the second one is they're creating the mini game for the web, which is using WebGL and also 3D components. But most interestingly, so the whole blockchain aspect is actually being created already for that web game. Whereas by the time that the web game is more or less done, or in a state where we think like, okay, that contains everything that we need for the foundation of Star Atlas, it'll be used by the Unreal Engine as well. So they're actually, the whole blockchain part is already being developed and will be, I mean, I won't say done before the Unreal Engine game is done, but it's going in parallel and they're already testing it. They're testing with the web game. As Michael mentioned, later this year, a release will come out, named Scream for now. And they will be able to test parts of the blockchain that will also end up in the Unreal Engine game. So, and we know that Unreal Engine, the showroom gets out, a free flight module will come after. It will also gradually improve and extend. So I think there's less risk involved. All that said, to answer your question, if you cannot hear me, Personally, I have some faith. Of course, that they can make it. Else I would not be in this space, would not sit here. But we'll see. We will be able to see gradually, year by year, what they're doing, if they're going to make it, what the progression is, where they are at, how things are going with what they are releasing, if it's buggy or not, and everything. So we don't have to have faith for 7 years. We have to have faith for a few more months and a few more months for the next evolution, next step, etc.
Yeah, no doubt. So we got a key opinion leader, maybe somebody that works for Illuvium here in the green room. I think it'd be a great opportunity to go ahead and bring him up. Andrew, the executive producer and host at Illuvium, he's back here in the green room. Let's go ahead and bring him up for a minute. I'd love to pick his brain a little bit on where he's sitting with this debate. He's got a lot of experience in the gaming industry and like CD Projekt Red. He's got a lot of backstory, and more so than me, he's much more has a lot of experience in that industry. So I'd love to pick his brain about that. Can we go ahead and bring him up? Is he
While we bring him up, I'm going to say thank you to Metaverse Explorer, TSG, and Funcracker. As I try to bring on another guest, I just need you guys to now jump off so I can bring on the next guest. And I promise you that we're going to be doing a lot of these more. So I appreciate Funcracker, Metaverse Explorer, and TSG for being on. These are always very insightful. So thank you again, and let's bring on Andrew. And looks like we got Andrew and we got Andy. This is great. Perfect. Thank you.
Hello, hello, hello.
Andrew,
hello.
What's up, buddy? How are you?
Hey, what's up, guys?
Man, the event of the century, huh?
Absolutely.
Let's go at each other's
Holyfield
throats.
right there.
Man, I have so many thoughts on this to share, but you guys lead the conversation.
What I was going to
ahead,
answer on top of that question that was just posed was I actually, I agree. The timeline's a tough thing to gauge. And with the Star Atlas set them up very high on the cinematic trailer, the very cinematic, super high graphical capabilities. So now the expectation is above the ceiling for what they're delivering, right? So I think that becomes the problem. Will they deliver down the line? It's all going to be based off expectations now. And the expectation from the very beginning was set at the highest level possible with a Hollywood level cinematic trailer. So I'm, hopeful that it can come through for the sake of gaming, right? But at the same time, definitely wary of the fact that a lot of people will give them a hard time on the gameplay if it doesn't come close to what they've previewed so far.
Yeah, interesting take. Now, it is interesting to me, too, that we're talking about two different genres of kind of games and two different gamers, in a sense. Like, one's a really collectible, explorer and things like that. And, of course, you got a space game. So it is interesting to see where that, that they're two coming together and there's a debate there. But I'm curious, Andrew, what's your thoughts on some of the macros here? You have a lot of backstory in gaming, of course. I'd love to hear your opinion about kind of what you thought of the debate and where things could be going. Yeah, I know it's a hot take, but curious what your thoughts are.
Oh, I got a hot take for sure. So, I mean, I've got a lot of thoughts. Here are my thoughts. Let's start with the debate itself. So the moderation by Kagi was terrible. Arguably the worst moderation I think I've ever seen of any debate of all time. He covered up Kieran's face at the beginning with a video window when he was introducing himself, number one. He had to resubscribe to Zoom mid-debate. The debate almost ended, baiting his followers into literally giving him super chats to pay to keep the debate going. That's number two. Number three, it's embarrassing to even use Zoom at all as a platform. He's not a boomer. He's a professional full-time content creator. He should be using a platform like Ninja or Streamlabs OBS or what full-time creators use. Literally beginning creators just use OBS, which is a professional platform. He's using Zoom. That was embarrassing. Also, that's number three. Number four, Kagi debated on the behalf of Star Atlas during the debate. That's his prerogative to do that? Come on. I thought this was supposed to be a debate. He's supposed to be the moderator. He completely punted his moderator duties and just came in to just attract attention. And that's the final point about the debate, and we can move on to the actual points from the guys. You got to give it to Kagi. The guy's a living meme, and he is ultimately got everyone to promote him in his channel to even give him money in super chats. And so well done by Kagi in terms of being that type of personality on the internet. As far as being a moderator, utterly failed. That was the worst I've ever seen. It was so cringy to even listen to any words he said during the debate. I think people wanted a real debate between Illuvium and Star Atlas, a substantive debate that talks about their current project, where things are going to move in the next 5 years, and then the future beyond that from two visionary leaders in the industry. And instead, we got Kagi just chopping it up and acting like an idiot. That's my opinion on the debate itself. Would you like me to move on to their individual points?
Yeah, I'm curious. Yeah, I'm curious what your thoughts are. There's a lot of revelations we got to learn about Star Atlas's development, which is exciting to me because I do have one chip there. Browser game. We know that there's 4 Unreal Engine developers there. Games kind of out farther than initially thought, which is kind of already, I think, in most people's opinions, like we kind of agreed on that part of it. What's your take on the revelations in the debate there? And I agree with you. I think moderation could have been better and more controlled, and I would have loved to see more macro topics talked about in terms of how we're going to onboard mainstream users and gamers into Web3 games. But curious your thoughts, Andrew, on some of those revelations.
I love you, Kyle. You're so tactful. You're so soft in the way that you address things. See, you're being a real moderator right now, and I appreciate that. Thank you for being a real moderator. So
You're welcome.
To Kieran's points, I will go over Kieran's points and Michael's points, and because I think that they both had different approaches to the debate. So Kieran's points, like the UI focus being early, being suspect, was a point he kept going back to. In my experience, having worked with Blizzard, Ubisoft, and multiple developers in the past very closely in the gaming industry for the last 14 years, I'm not aware of any games that develop a fully formed, polished UI this early in the development process. And we didn't get a good answer on why that's the case. You could chop that up to a difference in priorities, let's say. I've never seen a video game do that. It is true, UI is usually last. And so Kieran's assumption, I think, his point was, you would develop the UI to be this polished this early, strictly for marketing purposes. And that's not necessarily malintent, in my opinion. Maybe they are just doing the UI this pretty for marketing purposes because they need to market the game. That was one of his points. Okay, that one I feel like was kind of a nothing burger point at the end of the day. It was kind of a suspicion. The scope being too large was a point that wasn't properly addressed. So here's what I mean. So Michael said that the game will come out in 5 to 7 years. Star Atlas has been in development for 11 years and is still not out. And the scope of Star Atlas was much smaller than Star Citizen. Star Atlas has double the resources, 400 million. Star Citizen has half the resources, 200 million. And yet Star Atlas thinks it's going to get its scope, which is way bigger than Star Citizen, done in half the time. So how can you have half the resources and get the project, a larger project, done in half the time? It seems literally impossible. And so I don't think Michael did a good point of addressing that gigantic scope issue. He was straightforward that the project is a long-term vision and what have you. But if he's saying it's going to take 5 to 7 years and the best project in the entire world to ever exist still hasn't done it in 11, Star Atlas fully coming out with the vision he's pitching in 2027 to 2029 seems unrealistic, right? We're probably looking at this going into the 2030s. So I think that point was well met and was substantive. And I'll say that. So in terms of Michael's side, Michael did a great job of marketing at Star Atlas during the debate. So whenever he was asked a question, he didn't answer the question ever right out the gate. And he did a solid like politician move where you don't answer the question somebody asks you, you market your product or your platform or your ideas for like a minute or two first, then you come back to the question after that, and then you address the question. So because he was on the defensive, he did a good job of marketing Star Atlas in this debate because he was kind of on his back foot there in the debate. And so I think that he had a pretty good approach. But I don't think that he did a great job of addressing the timeline and scope and the actual delivery of Star Atlas within the 5 to 7 year timeline. And that point kind of stuck And for me, that was the one thing that stood out from all of Kieran's points that kind of live on, right? Like, I want Star Atlas to happen. I want to play this game every single day and put on my VR headset and to like just live inside this universe personally. As somebody who works at Illuvium, I just want this to exist. But in my view, based on just the facts that we have in front of us, we aren't going to see that until the 2030s. And the issue with this game coming out in its full vision in the 2030s is that we'll be in Web 4 already, whatever Web 4 is. Like, the next generation of technology will already be here. And that's kind of a concern, I suppose. Kind of like with Star Citizen, right? It's taken 11 years for the game to never come out. That game may even creep into the 2030s as well. And so that kind of looming issue with Star Atlas is a personal concern of mine as like a gamer who wants to have that full experience and have it be a successful project. That's my take on the debate. Overall, I would say a follow-up debate in the future would be great, but certainly not with Kagi as the moderator. Maybe with somebody like Kyle or someone else who can actually like get these guys to share real thoughts on the industry and like get like real professional takes on what's happening. That would result in the brilliance of these two guys actually happening on the screen. That's my take on the debate overall.
Yeah, no, I think you hit on something.
And I think that's what was missing.
Go for it, Johnny.
I just think that's what was missing. I wanted to see the collaboration of those two minds really like put on display, and I feel like that we didn't get to see that based on the structure of the debate. I completely agree with a lot of what you said there as well. Go ahead, Jorge.
Yeah, I mean, look, the reason we had this before in live panel, the reason we're having this was because we knew that the message wasn't going to be clear. And we knew that going into this panel, there wasn't really a correct way of putting this together. And that's why we jumped in and we said, hey, we need to bring both communities and have conversations that will make sense for like, hey, how is Star Atlas growing and how is Illuvium growing? And what do they need? And what does GameFi need in this space? What are the talking points that other developers can listen from these two guys talking about obstacles, about visions, about how to build and what it takes and money-wise and everything, the fundraising, what the costs, all that kind of things that we need in the GameFi space to go for, because I can't tell you, I mean, as Arcade, we look at what, 10 or 15 games in a weekly basis, and we get so many questions of like, I don't know what developers I need. I don't know how much money I need. I can't tell you how many times we get, how much money do we need? It's like, well, what do you mean you don't know how much money do you need? And so like, there's all these things that other games that need help in Web3. And in order for Web3 to grow, we need these power giants that pay, like start telling us the alpha or like the secrets or like what's keeping you up at night so that we can help these little projects that are coming into the space. And in order for mass adoption to come in, we need help, right? And so I was just thinking like, hey, this is exactly why we created this space, to bring on individuals like Andrew, like you, Kajani, Kyle, to be able to, hey, let's collaborate and let's find out how do we get the message across? Like, how do we help others?
Yeah, and Jorge, I would add, I think there are some very different premises that these two projects are starting from. The real approach that I see Illuvium taking that's different than Star Atlas, Illuvium is taking I would say, more traditional Web 2 approach to develop the product and then launch it. So there's no pre-sales of in-game assets, and I think Star Atlas is taking, let's say, a more traditional Web 3 approach, which is we'll sell the assets first and then we'll build the game. I think that this is a really important distinction. There are lots of other projects out there in Web3 now that are approaching it in those two different directions. But I would have really loved to see a substantive debate about the merits of those two approaches, because I think there's value in that discussion as opposed to, as I think Andrew very eloquently put it, the kind of shit posting that just carried over into YouTube debates.
No, that's a great point. Web 2 approach, but I'm interested in like why take this approach compared to Star Atlas and Kieran I think did have good points there. I think we learned a little bit more, although his approach may not been everybody's favorite. We did get a little bit more clarity, like as I mentioned before. So as far as Star Atlas's approach, game being further out, at the end of the day, we want to play the game, right? And so I think that's what we're all interested in, as well as I mentioned earlier, is how we're going to get mainstream gamers into the Web3 space so we can see the ecosystem grow. So we all win at the end of the day. So yeah.
Yeah, and look, I think I've said this to you guys in the past, right? Is that like in 5 years from now or in 10 years from now, I hope that there's a debate of them of like saying who's got the better game and like, hey, I did this or I did that. But that's like far years away. And in order to get there, we need these two guys to really help us in this space to help Web3 and GameFi really grow because I mean, as you know, we're experiencing this bear market and we're seeing a lot of some of these bad actors fall out good, but now we're seeing the builders and money's kind of drying up from the VCs coming into the space. So it's going to be a lot tougher to build in GameFi. And so I think, yeah, now it's the time for the bigger guys to step up.
So browser-based game from Star Atlas, I want to kind of get your guys' take on this. Are we excited about this? And also, how far out do you think this game is going to be? And we got one of the Star Atlas guys. I think it's Tom, right? I'm curious what.
Actually, so we got Lloyd coming in right now, who is the co-founder of the club, which is one of the largest Star Atlas guilds. So Lloyd, come on stage. Can we get Alex? Can you get him on stage?
Yeah, my comment on this, just as a marketing executive, let's say in the gaming industry. So if a argument being levied against your game is that you have no game right now, and it's going to take forever for it to come out, which is just a TLDR summary of, if you Google search Star Atlas, those are half of the top search results. If you YouTube search Star Atlas, those are half of the search results. It's a great marketing move to have some kind of game available in the interim to fight that question off and to have a snappy answer to that question. Well, we actually do have a game. You can go play this browser game right now and experience XYZ, and let me tell you about it. So I think strictly from a marketing standpoint, whatever this game ends up being, it's going to be a win for Star Atlas to just help shut people up and say there is an experience that you can have right now. Sure, it may not be the full vision of the game, but at least you can play something. I think it'll be good for defense in the meantime. It doesn't get rid of that kind of overarching, creeping, is it a scam concern about Star Atlas that you see out there in clickbait? And I think a lot of the reason why we're here talking about this right now is because there's so much FUD and clickbait out there about Web3 gaming and what have you, and we get baited into it. But I think it'll help them fight that and give a substantive answer. But in terms of like Kieran's point from the debate about show us some real gameplay, man, I guess is the summary of what he was saying there. I don't know when Star Atlas is going to be able to show like in-game mechanics and real gameplay. And so this is going to help them in the meantime be able to show something that isn't just, walking a character on a preset stage, right? And hopefully soon Star Atlas can have real gameplay of like actual in-game mechanics and real like deeper interactions happening. But that might take a couple years. I don't know. I'm not on Star Atlas's team. I don't know. So they've got to have something to show in the meantime. If that takes years to show real gameplay, they need something to put forward. Because this question's going to keep coming up over and over and over again around Star Atlas, and it could plague them from like a PR standpoint.
Great take. Yep.
Yep. And now we got Lloyd from the club. Quick intro and quick thoughts on what you're thinking about in this space, especially after today's debate.
Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sorry, I'm a bit late. My mic broke, so I'm just using the laptop mic at the moment. So apologies for that. Otherwise, I'm sure I would have been on with Thundercracker and the Metaverse Explorer earlier. But yeah, I'm a co-founder of the club, Lloyd. So we're mainly focusing on Star Atlas at the moment. We are promoting Web3 gaming, blockchain gaming as a whole. Obviously, to diversify to other projects that requires time, energy, resources, all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, we're focusing on Star Atlas and then Solana initially, because again, we don't want to manage so many wallets and different communities until we have the resources to do so. But yeah, I put all biases aside for this debate because I do think it's very important and very healthy to hold leaders of these projects to account, because there's just so many pump and dump projects out there. You've got to filter through them all. I don't believe Star Atlas or Illuvium are a pump and dump at all. I think they're at the forefront of this space, and they offer some longevity and sustainable kind of ecosystems, which is very important. But yeah, I'm definitely more the Star Atlas maxi, although I do hold a few Illuvium tokens.
So with that being said, though, are you surprised by kind of some of the answers Michael gave? Like, was your mindset like you knew it was going to be like 5-7 years, or what's your thoughts on that initial kind of clarification from Michael? I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, well, we all know it's going to take ages, and Star Citizen is the perfect example. So I guess it's something to learn from. That's why Star Atlas are bringing it out in stages, step by step. And yeah, it's something that's never been built before, so they've got to build from the ground up. And we all know it's going to take time. And we are all itching to get some gameplay, that's for sure. Yeah, this ship staking thing is something just to get our ships kind of earning. We struggle to call it a game at the moment, but every day, Michael's in the Discord answering questions, and all of those questions have come up multiple times in the Discord. Every day, without fail, he's on there talking to the community and answering questions and showing kind of like work in progress shots and things like that. So I'm not worried one bit. Everyone else do your own research. But for me, I'm a big believer in this project.
Yeah, I think, look, I mean, at least from when I was introduced to both projects, right? At least for when I was introduced to Star Atlas project, I knew that it was going to be a 5 or 7 year window, right? And I think, you guys always hear me on the spaces. Me and Johnny do spaces all the time, and we're like, I think good AAA quality games take years to build. And I think, I see even Kevin in the comments right now asking like this question that we ask all the time is like, how much money is needed to really build a AAA quality game, and how many people do you need, and what's the time frame? Like, do we realistically know what those 3 buckets are to produce a AAA quality game, especially in blockchain? I don't think so, right? Like, I don't know, like, if we have that answer. I mean, because look, I mean, we know in like Call of Duty, some of those games took 4, 5, or 6 years to build, and we don't know. I mean, we do know the development size and the money, but we don't know what it would take in this size. So I think, like, there's just still, again, too many unanswered questions, and I think it's because we are so early into this space, right? Like, we are just too early to know. And I kind of want to gauge like those thoughts. Like, what do you, Annie? I know you're big on this kind of stuff. So, Annie, what are you thinking?
Yeah, so I think you have to take the Web 2 development life cycles as a baseline for this particular question, and then you add on top of it the additional Web 3 integration, right? So, it's not like we're building the first ever MMO or the first ever auto battler that the world has ever seen, and so, with that as a baseline, in my estimates, when I share on my channel, when do I think Web3 games are going to launch, I take a baseline Web2 development timeframe and I add on an additional 15 to 20% to connect the Web3 elements. You can do a lot of the economic impact and like tokenomic structures, NFT integration in parallel to the actual gameplay development. But at the end, you've got to hook everything together. And so, I think when we look at these timelines, it's fair to evaluate, what is the size, capitalization and funding for a team in light of what would they need to deliver their solution in a Web 2 space. And based on that, you can make an appropriate and informed decision.
So to that point, I'd love to know everybody's thoughts here. So if we look at the Web 2 versions of something like Star Atlas, you've got 11 years of development with Star Citizen, and you've got 10 years of development with Star Field. Both of those games are maybe half the size, maybe one-fifth the size of what Star Atlas aspires to be. Then you put the Web 3 integration on the end of that. You're looking at 10 to 11 years, plus maybe a couple extra years. I mean, based on your outline you just said, Star Atlas is coming out in 13 or more years. Is that what you're saying? Because that's kind of what I heard here. Like, you look at the Web 2 version, you add the blockchain development time, that equals when it's coming out. So 13 years from now for Star Atlas, I mean, that's quite a bit different than the 5 to 7 that's being talked about today. Is that your Price is Right style guess here?
I don't think Star Atlas will ever be finished, and I think Michael Wagner's said that also. It's just going to be a continual development and continually improving and expanding. And Star Citizen is an incredible simulator, and that's an immense task as well. I don't know if Star Atlas will eventually go down the route of kind of making this simulator where you can have the full flight controls and every single button does something like that. But eventually, maybe. I mean, the VR experience doesn't necessarily need to be a simulator. But yeah, I think they will just continually develop over years and years and years.
Yeah, I actually, share that opinion. I think within the Web3 space, I think, the traditional model of, like Call of Duty 1 comes up and Modern Warfare 2 comes out next year. I think, that model is kind of going to go away, and we're going to see more like, I guess, GTA is probably a good example where they've just continuously developed and added additions to the game. I feel like, like all these games that are trying to build a metaverse, like, I don't essentially think anyone can build a metaverse or a metaverse game. I think all these different projects could be considered like its own meta world or whatever. And like the metaverse concept is the connection of all of these different projects and ecosystems and universes kind of building on top of each other and communicating in some way, whether it's communicating your player stats or the amount of credits or crypto you use, however these things are going to develop out. So I don't really think, like any of these games that are developing in this space, I think, that model of, yeah, this game is out, because then what happens? Does Illuvium 2 come out, or does Star Atlas 2 come out? No, right? I think Illuvium will be like, all right, we've come out with this new use case for our Illuvatars, or we're going to use our fuel to produce this. It's all going to be like a new package that gets added to what already exists. I think that's going to be like the new model on how all these things progress. And as far as arcade goes, like we have like about over $1 million worth of assets deployed into like both of these ecosystems, and I think we've done like a fair share of our due diligence, and that's the basically conclusion we came to, that like these games, that there's really no final product, because the final product will keep changing, and I also feel like the reason that even we're in this debate situation, like how this all because I would say, we're involved in a lot of games, right? Not just Star Atlas and Illuvium, but I would say from a lot of the games that we are involved in, Star Atlas and Illuvium are building in kind of a siloed off ecosystem. Like Star Atlas is like all Star Atlas, and Illuvium, for the most part, it's like all Illuvium, right? And whatever products they roll out later on, it's going to be somehow tied into the ILV token, SILV, all of those mechanics. It's going to be one ecosystem. That's not necessarily what we see with a lot of these other projects, where, they're building side by side with other projects, and then, and the thing is, even to get there, you have to plan for these things early on. And in the developmental stages, we're seeing a lot of these projects that we basically got exposed to and invested in separately. Over time, they start talking to each other, and they start building, where it's feasible, they're building into each other. And I think that's, that's how the space is actually going to progress. I actually don't think there will ever be like it's just a different model. I don't think there's going to be like, this game is done and then we have like the sequel to it and whatever. Like, I think it's just going to be people building, and the is on the topic of people building. I think like community has, especially in these games, like whatever is going to be successful, I think community plays a big effect. And I think Star Atlas and Illuvium both have very strong communities. And out of all the games that we're invested in, which is probably like a couple $1 million and like at least like 10 titles that I can name off the top of my head, I will say that I've only seen this in Star Atlas where the community has built so much cool stuff. We have Lloyd over here. They've built like tools and like useful toolkits and all these things that didn't really come from Star Atlas. It came from people who just like the game. And we're seeing this from like all these other like guilds and entities that are involved within this project. And I haven't seen that with any other game that we're involved with. Not Illuvium, or if there is, like correct me if I'm wrong. We have over like $2 million in the non-fungible labs ecosystem. There's nothing that is community built to the extent that we're seeing that the Star Atlas community is deploying their personal resources and time to create these things. So I think those are some metrics to look at when we're trying to see like what really gives these projects strength, right? Because I think just thinking of like, oh yeah, it's going to be done by X time, I don't think they're going to be done ever. I would share that with Lloyd.
That's a fair point. The community, that's obviously super important really in any Web3 project. One thing I will say that I do have a ship in Star Atlas and super fanboy on space themes. Like I love that genre. But the one thing I will say with Illuvium, it just seems like they're ahead in terms of development. What happens when they launch a game? Will there be immediately community around that? Hustle, what's your opinion on that? Like, it seems like Illuvium further in the development timeline. Will they launch the game first? And if so, what's community look like in terms of these projects?
Who will launch first? I would probably safely say that Illuvium launches their game first if I have to make a call on that. But as far as community goes, both of these communities are two of the best in Web3 gaming, in general. Whenever you just look at the passion behind each project and the hype behind each project, people host Twitter spaces revolving around each project, updates, almost radio style. There's channels out there that do cover these games in depth and specific. And we all know how important communities are within games. We know how big and almost cult-like that NFT communities and crypto communities get, like the XRP army, the ADA army, etc. Like, we know how passionate they get. Add a game to it. I think both communities are both some of the strongest in the space, and it's what it's going to take to get these games where we want them to be, because we don't have that Web 2 market share. We can't just drop this game and everyone just adapts immediately to this NFT side of things. So I think that both communities are fantastic, and it's going to play a key role because we've actually seen, and unfortunately for these projects, they weren't the best games and horrible tokenomics, but Axie Infinity and those initial games, their communities, while some people stick around, the sentiment goes sour, and it's not a game anymore. It's an investment through and through, and they have to treat it that way with the volatility that has been shown with the old models. So I think that community is key. And if you base everything off of price and asset prices, which it doesn't feel like either of Illuvium or Star Atlas the focus is whatsoever, that's where we're going to be able to find a recipe for success with these communities. So I definitely like the approach that I think both are laying on the table. I think one is a super, super ambitious project, and like Andrew said, we'll see if we'll get it done by 2030. But I would definitely expect to see Illuvium out before then, and I've loved every bit and piece that I've touched from the Illuvium ecosystem so far. So each project has pros, and I think each project has questions yet to be answered, and that's the fun part of this, right? We're at the forefront of something special as far as this whole industry goes, and when it comes to the top projects, there is going to be that competition and some FUD here and there, but all in all, I think the communities on both sides are strong, and it's going to be interesting to see the development and the timeline in which it happens over the next 3 to 8 years or so.
Yeah, absolutely. Great answer there. Annie, what's your thoughts, just real quick, if we still got you there? What's your thoughts on community in terms of development? Which one are you? Obviously, I think you're an Illuvium guy, I think. But what's your thoughts more on the community side? Where do you see this kind of going? Is it just going to be we're all in this together, or are we going to be segmented off kind of like XRP army versus, Cardano army or something like that? Or is it just going to be whoever launches first is kind of going to win community in terms of the macro? What's your thoughts on that, Annie?
Yeah, so I think there's a few pieces there to unpack. The first is both the communities that are involved in this particular debate are really strong. I also think that just in general, Web3 gaming, the communities are stronger.
Dun, dun, dun. Is that an empty block?
That's because, I think that there's really, a major focus on the ethos of Web3 in general. And so, with that in mind, my expectation is when games actually become available, you're going to see gamers join, and they will determine what the success of the projects is going to be in the future. So we don't have to artificially create or predict who the winners are going to be. I have full confidence in the marketplace to actually determine that. And my approach is I really want space to succeed. And if either of these games become the juggernaut that they could be in the next 10 years, then I think it's good for the industry as a whole. Obviously, Illuvium is much closer to launching, and as you mentioned, I've spent more time working in the Illuvium ecosystem, but I've got 10 or 15 games that I'm heavily invested and focused on right now across Web3. And so, I think there are individual pieces of each of those that have value, and we need to continue learning, about the space by looking at the best elements from each individual ecosystem and bringing them into our own. And so, I think it's a question of how do we make the game attractive so that when mainstream gamers see products available, they're not immediately repulsed by the concept of going to Web3. And that starts with gameplay first, and then it transitions to, okay, what's my buy-in? What's my use case from a token or an NFT standpoint? And it has to start with ownership, not with earnings. And the elements that in version 0 of Web3, we saw with Axie, they took the model which was no ownership and said, well, therefore the opposite of that is you need to be able to earn full-time wages with NFTs. That's not the opposite. The opposite of no ownership is ownership. Earning is a completely different spectrum. And so I think we have to recognize that within the space and really see how that develops across different games that launch.
Yeah, absolutely. Jorge, did you have something to say? I'm also curious though, too, is like in terms of the game launching, what's that look like in terms of tokenomics? But Jorge, what's your thoughts, man?
Yeah, well, I mean, before we go, I know that I'm pressed on time with Andrew right now. I know he has a meeting soon. Do you let him do a closing remarks, and then I'll answer that question. So Andrew, you go for it. You got a couple minutes to do the closing remarks. Tell us how to follow you, what's happening, and any alpha leaks that you want to share with us.
Alpha leaks? I don't have any alpha leaks. I just came here to talk about the debate, and I'm not going to shill anything Illuvium because I think everybody already knows about it here. What I will say is that for this next debate, if there is any next debate, I'd like an organization like Arcade to host the event because you'd handle it professionally and you would, actually have a real debate. There would be substantive information shared. And so hopefully, if something like this happens in the future, whether it's Illuvium versus Star Atlas or whether it's some other debate between two industry titans, I would like you guys to host such an event and not have it be memeified or have it go to the levels it stooped to, thanks to the caggy spin on the event that happened this time. The stirring up drama. I understand the stirring up drama is why everybody's here in this stream and why people are talking about the projects, and overall it's probably a win at the end of the day for that reason, but it'd be great to have a real debate. So anyway, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Keep up the great work, Arcade community, and hopefully both of these projects achieve 100% of their vision, because if Illuvium fails, Star Atlas is going to suffer some serious consequences for that, with mistrust of the AAA Web3 game. And if Star Atlas fails, Illuvium will suffer the consequences as well, with the titan in the industry dropping. So I think both projects need the other one to succeed. Otherwise, it will cause issues for the industry and make this sort of PR disaster and make this space a laughingstock to traditional and legacy gaming. So at the end of the day, if you're a Star Citizen fan or if you're an Illuvium fan, you actually want the other project to succeed because their success is your success, just macro level. And just as an example, take a look at some of the crypto exchanges out there that have filed for bankruptcy, like Celsius and Voyager, for example. There's other exchanges that are legit and are fine and are doing great, but because a couple of them went bankrupt, it cast doubt on the entire crypto exchange space, even though only a few of them were irresponsible, right? The same thing is the case here in Web3 gaming and in GameFi. And if one or two projects rug or don't succeed or whatever happens, hack, whatever it is, everybody suffers the consequences. We're all in this together. Adios, amigos. Have a great day.
Andrew, it was amazing. Thanks for joining, man. It's always a pleasure.
Good to see you, Kyle. Later, guys.
Take care.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. I love Andrew. I love when Andrew speaks. I think, I think I connected really well with Andrew when I first met him, and I love the way his thoughts and processes are. So I was really appreciative of being able to have him on today's show. Lloyd, I know that I got a couple minutes with you as well. Do you want to give some closing remarks on what you think as a guild or as a perspective on Star Atlas, what's needed in the space to be able to keep growing, and what kind of support and help you think the community really needs to be able to grow?
Yeah, well, I'll echo what Andrew said there. I think Arcade would have been the perfect hosts for this debate, considering you got such large investments in both projects also. And again, kind of talking about holding leaders to account, it is important, and communicating with the community is part of it. That's a major part of it, but also delivering as well. And I think Star Atlas is delivering. They did make they kind of were taking the mickey out of themselves with their latest 426 event, and that whole event was to do with Michael Wagner always saying the release is 4 to 6 weeks away, and then 4 to 6 weeks never kind of happens. So they were kind of having a bit of fun with this latest event and saying this is now on the table. And not just that, they during the event they actually said this is live today, the DAO and the marketplace. So finally we're getting some delivery from them. Next we hope to see this showroom, and I mean, now that they've opened up and said really 4 to 6 is on the table, they just need to deliver. And
they actually just dropped on the Star Atlas account, it looks like a little bit of gameplay footage of like aircraft combat or spaceship combat.
Yeah, I think they showed that during the debate. It looked like the kind of the mechanics of what it looks like in a ship.
This flight model. Well, this is still a long way away. I mean, the showroom and the flight model is going to give us all a little taster of what the Unreal Engine 5 experience is going to look like, but it's going to be a long way away. The first iteration is going to be this browser-based game that they're calling Scream. So the UE5 actual proper gameplay is still going to be, well, we don't know when it's going to be, but let's just say years away.
Yeah, absolutely. And to what Andrew brought up earlier too is just like the macro crypto, how I think was it 3 Arrows Capital. It's like it decimated the entire crypto market, but even like how Axie, the Ronin hack, that really affected a lot of Web3 games and their ability to raise money in their own projects. So I agree with that too, is like we all win together. And I think that's kind of the best approach to take, in my opinion, in terms of the macro Web3 game space.
Yeah, and also creating a game that is going to be fun for gamers will help to kind of detach the crypto gaming away from the crypto, or kind of try and help it stand on its own legs. Because at the moment, people are spending hundreds of dollars every month on Fortnite skins. So, they might do the same in a crypto game, and just to help it kind of be a bit more resilient to these these bear markets.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting point, Lloyd. The last 2 years, if you look at the average spend per gamer in Web3 games, it's almost exactly the same as in Web2. If you look at Axie and Decentraland and so on, you take the total daily active users for Web3 games, you get about $1,000 US per year for Web3 gamers, the same as you did for Web2. Now, obviously those of us in the space recognize that the reason people were spending in the Web3 games is from an investing standpoint, they want further returns as opposed to, let's say, actual gameplay or your loyalty to the project through skins or something similar. But I think it is interesting. It shows where the addressable market lies if we can build games that are actually quality titles. You have a greater likelihood of increasing that total spend on Web3 games, because you have the people willing to spend on Web3 because they like the concept of owning their own assets, and you have those that are willing to spend just purely from a gameplay and a community standpoint.
Yep. Yeah, man, I really appreciate the thoughts, and I want to say thank you real quick to Lloyd. I appreciate you coming on. I know that we were time slotted, so I want to say thanks for coming on, and Lloyd, we'll make sure everybody gets a follow on the club on Twitter. So now I'll let you go. Thank you very much. Hustle, I want to back on the stage and talk to you since you're going to be kind of creating a lot of content this upcoming week. Give the people what you really think that you want to help. I know you're an avid gamer and you're really about community. And so based on what today we kind of wrapped it up, I want to kind of hear your closing thoughts on what's coming from you on what you think was the need for the GameFi space.
Yeah, of course. I'll probably even go back and rewatch the debate, like listen to it while I'm in the gym or something like that today, so I can get a second run by. Because I think sometimes, it's good to, especially if we're going to digest this and try to, shape shift it and how it works for the future of each ecosystem and the gaming world. So I'll probably re-listen to it today. Initial feedback is, I don't think that type of stuff is necessary for the space. What we saw today, I really don't think that that's the way forward, so to speak. But I think that it's an interesting thing to have happened, and seeing some of the answers, we'll kind of go back and see, the timelines on each project and some of the things that Michael and Kieran laid out. But as far as content goes, we'll have the spaces tomorrow night. I'm sure we'll do some YouTube stuff as well over on Banter and my personal channel, and definitely on the crypto gaming reports inside the server for my upcoming project. That'll definitely be a topic to kind of discuss if that's super good for the space or if it's just negativity that we don't need, right? Like, imagine if that did get out of hand, and if Kagi was to have acted on to a point where it's like a dick swinging contest. I don't think that would have looked good for the entire industry, because you don't see Valorant on a Twitter space with a CSGO arguing who's a better game. So I think that's the kind of divide, right? And I think over time,
we just gotta get them playing the games against each other. We just gotta move to that,
Yeah, and I agree with the sentiment. People are spending the same amount of money on Fortnite skins and that Web 2 microtransaction that they would be in Web 3. So it's about the education and not so much butting heads in the space. I think that's the main thing. But otherwise, I'm still ambitious on both projects. I own assets in both. I'm neutral. I'm not a maxi as far as any games go. And I think that it's just going to be an interesting development for both. And they're both so important for the space that I honestly shoot a prayer to the sky that they both succeed, because there's a few projects in the space who carry more weight as far as their developments. And I think that Illuvium and Atlas are both of those projects out of a handful. So it'll be a fun week. And yeah, Jorge and I'll be on Twitter Spaces tomorrow. Anyone's welcome to join and chat it up with us. I think it'll be a good time and a good discussion with Mr. JPEG as well, seeing his opinions on this.
Yeah. And Andy, I'll give you some room to talk too as well. I know you're creating a lot of content lately for Illuvium. What's your take on all this and what you're going to be working on in a couple of weeks?
Yeah, so more of my content is, I would say, general Web3 ethos and philosophy, more so than individual game player content. The part that's interesting to me is just looking at all the builders across the Web3 ecosystem and how they're all approaching it differently. We haven't talked about other projects, and I don't want to go into details, but yeah, there's 15 or 20 projects that I'm actively researching and involved in the communities, and I really like how this funding that we've seen really enter the space over the last 2 years allows experimentation within the space very broadly. And you look at the parallels to early internet days. You see transitions where MySpace was replaced by Facebook. You see Pets.com goes out of business, but it doesn't mean the internet's dead, and it doesn't mean that the whole concept of a web page isn't meaningful. What it means is that particular use case or that particular implementation left something to be desired. And so, I think these debates and discussions, as long as they're about substantive issues and approaches that the teams are using, they push the space forward. And so, I'm a fan of that. The tone and tenor, I think, it is what it is. We all, I think, grew up around crypto Twitter, and so some of that carries over towards our debate more. I'd imagine if you put Web2 CEOs onto a stage together, they're going to talk a little bit differently than Web3 CEOs here, and that's okay. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, as long as we're focused on the real content behind it. And so, my plan for the next couple of weeks here is to try and unpack, just like I think Hustle mentioned, unpack some of the real, underlying premises and philosophical differences here, and just talk through those, because I also don't think that there's only one right solution. We're going to see dozens of games that take different approaches, and many will succeed that, frankly, I don't have on my radar. And I may have written off because I didn't like a particular approach, but I'm not always right, and neither is anyone else in this space. And so I think asking fair questions is the right way to go about it, particularly when you've got retail investors that are on the hook for potential investments. They may not have the in-depth knowledge or sophistication to really understand the topics that are at play, and we do need to a large degree self-police. And I think that's done by having good quality discussions about topics like this. So that's what I'm looking forward to doing. I'll put some more videos up in the next couple of weeks here, around it. And, I do think that at the end of the day, having eyes in the space is a good thing, as long as it results in us having appropriate conversations to move forward.
Well said, Annie. I always appreciate the things you say. I think you're very well spoken, and I think you have an awesome YouTube channel that with very insightful content. And I think sometimes I almost wish you were on a lot more YouTubes sometimes with what you say, because it really is very insightful and very, very well spoken. So maybe we'll you know what, Hustle, maybe we're gonna have him on the space next. We'll have Andy next on the space and get his thoughts, and we'll get Kyle as well, since Kyle, you were a great moderator today. I don't care what anybody says about you. I don't care what comments that are in the comment section about you.
TSG, I see you in the comments, man. Come on now.
Kazi, I want to say thanks to you too as well. Kazi, you have any closing remarks?
No, nothing for me. I think we've kind of discussed everything that was pretty relevant, and it was definitely a good chat. I think we should do these more often, which doesn't even have to be a debate, right? Just a fucking a high level conversation about the space. I think people get a lot of value out of that.
Yeah, and so I'm actually going to bring up one more guest. And in about 3 minutes, I want to bring up Grant from Undead Blocks, who I think is always fun to kind of hear. He's been tweeting a lot about the space and how his game is free. And so I think bringing him on and his energy and his thoughts. I think, look, here's another CEO who's building in this space, who's got a free game out already. It's completely different, of course, from what Star Atlas and Illuvium are doing. But I think Grant's approach as well is great to hear. And I'd like to hear his thoughts as a CEO of what the space and what's needed. Maybe we'll have Grant on next on a show with probably, Kieran and somebody like Michael Wagner. I think, Grant is very outspoken, and I think you guys will get a little bit of a glimpse from him in a couple minutes. And so, Kyle, I'll let you kind of get your thoughts on that. Have you played Undead Blocks yet?
Yeah. So I played it. I'm still pretty new to it, so I don't understand a lot of the how to go in and upgrade the skins just yet. But I am excited about it. I play a lot of FPS games, and that was one of the games I'm really excited about. So I do want to dive in. I want to hear from Grant. And where else can you find founders and CEOs jumping on, talking about their games? You don't get this in traditional gaming, I don't think. I mean, I haven't seen it. So to me, this space is just so much more exciting. Even the debate, quote unquote debate that we saw earlier, like we're just not going to see that in traditional gaming. Although it wasn't like what we wanted, I think we can all have, come to a consensus on that. But it is something that like I don't think we would have seen in a traditional sense. So exciting times to be alive. I'm curious to see more about Undead Blocks. I know Johnny has a lot of information on that as well, and I've even watched your videos on that. So yeah, I'd love to hear more about it for sure. I'm super excited. I'm a big first-person shooters guy.
Yeah, Johnny, you want to kind of give us a little bit of your take on it?
Yeah, give us the alpha, Johnny. I know you might have the inside scoop.
Yeah, so I won't say anything too much, but I think that the cool thing about their model is a lot of people in play-to-earn games, rightfully so, especially with what we've had come to the surface now. It's if you don't know where the yield's coming from, then you are the yield, so to speak, And I think that with Undead Blocks, their model is completely revenue backed. When we spoke with, and we met Grant in person out in New York as well, he really laid out the model for us. And their next tournament, their MP5 speed run, you can see is a $10,000 tournament, which is backed by Polka Starter Gaming. So it goes back to what he mentioned to us with their revenue model is sponsorship backed. And they're actually going to be able to have these sponsors come pay out these prizes, which in return pays out the ecosystem as well. And a play to earn that's not going to rely on a token value, right? It's paid out in normal like it's paid out in USDC, these prize pools, these big prize pools. So it really makes sense as far as a revenue model. There's no volatility to that downside for the players other than assets, and assets in games go up and down in value. Even if you can't sell them, there is value behind those Fortnite skins if you were to seek out to sell the accounts, for example. So fluctuating assets are a thing. That's an economical factor of a game that you can't control. But I love that it's not really based off of a token earning system. There are tokens that you can emit inside the game for advancing rounds, but they have the revenue model in place. And using advertising in the real life, like in games, when you open a free play game on your mobile phone, the first thing that pops up on your screen is a ad. It's just a free advertisement, and on the bottom it has a little ticker that says 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you can skip the advertisement. What he's mentioning is on their maps they're going to have ads posted up inside like the future maps and inside of the current map, like home on the houses on the top. There'll be like an advertisement for a platform. So I think that advertising revenue and sponsorship revenue for tournaments is a really interesting way to go about it. And I can't wait to be able to hop on a little arcade stream and play a little multiplayer Undead Blocks, see how far the boys can get. So that'll be fun. Yeah, I'm excited about what they're doing.
Let's go. I really like what you just said there, John. Yeah, I think he is challenging you.
I know. I hope he's not challenging me. I'm gonna act like I'm sorry. I think I'm having tech issues. I didn't hear what he said. Go for it, Kyle. What were we gonna say?
No, I just love what Johnny said about the tokenomics. Like when in terms of games, I do like models like that where it's not heavily relying upon tokenomics, because I do see that like being a good way for mainstream gamers to get in when they can say, okay, like I don't have to worry about this crazy tokenomics system. I can just play the game, get these assets, and we're good to go. So I look at games like Big Time as well. I think they're similarly structured in terms of you just buy the in-game assets, you look cool, you're good to go. And sure, you can buy like land and craft other things, but that just goes back into crafting more items for the game. So I really like that model and that style. And I really think those games like that have a good path forward to penetrating the mainstream market. So I am super excited about games like Undead Blocks.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that like, look, even though his game is not out, right? This is another thing, another game that's not out yet, but the beta that's out is great. I mean, I enjoyed it. Look, I've been playing this kind of like, I just got into it for the past 2-3 weeks since I met Grant, and I've really enjoyed it. And I'm excited for it because of the free to play, right? Like the entry. And I think that's the biggest thing to mass adoption. Like I have a thing about like some of these game projects that require this NFT. You have to buy this NFT that costs like $3,000 or $1,000, right? Like, why is the barrier so high? Like, what we haven't proved ourselves. We haven't shown anything. Why why is it so hard to get into some of these games when we haven't proved anything? Whereas in like, you go play Call of Duty and it's $60 or whatever it is, and like you already know what their track record is and what they've done. So like, yeah, I'm gonna go pay for it. So I'm excited for Undead Blocks because it's a completely the mentality behind the way that they're gonna bring adoption is completely different, and I think that's what's needed. So yeah, I'm excited for being able to just showcase a little bit more of what Grant's building, and waiting for him on any second to hop on. I think I see Kyle in the tweets. Kyle, where is Mr. Grant? Get him on here.
Yeah.
and Jorge, maybe while we're for him to hop on, you know, one part that I think is really important when we talk about the value of in-game assets going up over time, and I think Johnny mentioned this too, that there's a very fundamental difference in you bought an asset that cost you $20 and now it's worth $2,000 versus you have to buy something that's worth $2,000, you know, that you're paying the studio for, and then it goes up to 4K. The difference is, you know, the value is determined by the players. Is the game development studio taking all of the premium of the value themselves, or are they letting the market work? And you know, Pokemon didn't sell their initial cards that, you know, had a Charizard, you know, their packs for $500, and that's why Charizard is so, you know, so valuable, right? They sold all the packs at the same low starting price. They gave an entry opportunity for players to come into their ecosystem, to become fans in the space, and then the value accrued over time because of the IP. And I think that that's something that Web3 has tried to flip that and say, well, if we sell things for a lot of money, they'll therefore be highly valued. And that's true to some extent. You know, I work in a premium segment in my day job, and there's value in being a premium product, but you can't just make something cost a lot of money and therefore assume it gets a premium tag. And I think that's a big mistake that a lot of Web3 developers and founders have misunderstood, is you can't just set the price arbitrarily high and then assume that that valuation will stay. What happens is people will continue to value things at lower and lower amounts over time, and then the overall ecosystem just gets abandoned. And so I like very much having good entry points that, you know, allow people to come in and then decide that they think the final product has real value.
Well, then, I mean, look, I think, first of all, I'll even say, you know, I sometimes get nervous, like using my MetaMask, right? And setting up MetaMask and connecting MetaMask. Imagine somebody who doesn't even know this space that well, that wants to play a video game, but has to set up a MetaMask. Like, it must be like terrifying. I mean, I know it's terrifying for me, and I've been in this space for, I don't even know how long. I'm always wary of like, hey, how do I connect and stuff like that. And then that's one thing. Then understanding the token dynamics, right? Like you have to go from ETH to whatever that token is. That's not easy. I mean, like it's gotten simpler, but like there's a whole knowledge and understanding and education needed before even playing the game. And by then, it's not fun to play a game if you have to do all this, like, you know what I mean? So for those games that are building with a wallet in the background, I think Wagby Games is doing this, right? I think like Undead Blocks, Johnny, jump in if you have any other game suggestions. But like those that are doing this are the ones that are going to really help pioneer the Web3 mass adoption, because there's going to be simplicity. And like, look, even Arcade. I mean, we have FTX Pay, and we have all these easy on ramps from fiat to the Arcade coin. But even then, like, it's not a very like still not a very simple thing where a traditional investor will say, hey, like yeah, this is easy to get on. So hey, Kaz, you're gonna share that or no? Anyways, Johnny, go for it. You know, I know you have other games that you've been kind of collaborating with and everything.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not here to just shill every game under the sun, but definitely some games I'm really looking forward to as far as, and I think that there's games current playable that are great, but I think the games on the horizon definitely are the most exciting regardless. I'm really looking forward to Shrapnel, AAA first-person shooter on Avalanche, team from HBO, Call of Duty, Halo, really strong team over there. I like what is being built. I love Big Time. I mean, it's something that's playable right now as far as, and they're doing it right. It's just NFT assets. That's what it's based off of. So you beat a dungeon and then an asset drops on the floor. There's not a token earnings emission system. So I think as far as an economic model goes, that's definitely strong. So as far as playable now, I'd probably say big time. And then in the future, I'm really looking forward to Shrapnel for sure.
All right. The man, the myth, the legend is here. Let's bring him on stage. Mr. Grant.
Before we do, I'm just going to say peace out, guys. I got to hop off real quick, but I'll be listening in.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
Yep.
Alex, you want to bring Grant on stage?
Yeah, and I'll also say goodbye. Look forward to collaborating with all of you in the future too. Thanks for hosting really, I think, a good first step at a substantive discussion on the topics, and look forward to seeing some more with Arcade in the future.
Thank you, Annie.
Cheers. Have a good one.
Cheers.
Mr. Grant, can you hear us loud and clear?
I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
We hear you.
We just got Johnny going through the games he's looking forward to. We got to get him on the Undead Blocks craze. But no, thanks for having me. I know it's short notice.
We were just talking about it before. Don't let him swindle you. We were literally, I literally just gave the elevator pitch for Undead Blocks. Do not let him say that type of stuff.
Johnny, I appreciate you having me on again. Thanks for hanging.
Of course.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, so Grant, I think the biggest thing we held this debate, the before and the after party for this debate, because we wanted to do a couple things. We wanted to get a perspective of what GameFi needs, right? We have one of the two largest games that are building like their AAA quality games that we're going at it, and we wanted to make sure that the conversation wasn't about like, hey, who's better and who's not. It's more of like, hey, what does GameFi need? And I know you're building a lot in the Undead Blocks, and as a CEO, like what was what you got out of it as a CEO that you're like, hey man, I need to go work on this right now because I don't want to get on a debate like that and not have something to showcase.
I appreciate the question. I had a lot of our community members were tuned in and engaged. And look, we need Illuvium and Star Atlas to be successful. I think Johnny said this earlier on your show where, they are almost at a point where they're too big to fail. They have such large and passionate fan bases. If you look at the entire demographic of who you're marketing crypto gaming to, I would say about 95% of them have a piece of either one of those two titles. So I'm rooting for them as well. But when you hear Michael talk, he's very political. Like I'm very much versed in his world where he's come from, his background. And I would like to see more engagement with actual timelines. You put a 5 to 7 year timeline out there. And I think, I don't know if his name's Anthony, the other Illuvium guest you had on, he was referencing like, okay, Star Citizen is in year what now, 11, 12, 13. Like, I would just like to see a little bit more of a concrete roadmap. But where are you going to earn in these games, guys? Like, you're going to wait 5 to 7 years to do what? Like, play the game, have fun, sure. And we understand. I mean, look, GTA is going to take 5, 6, 7 years, but isn't the goal of Web3 gaming to earn? It should be, at least in some point, own your digital assets and earn. And so that's why I put out a tweet. I was like, yeah, this is a really cool discussion. You're waiting on both of these awesome games, these huge titles to develop. Come play on Undead Blocks this weekend. We're giving away 10,000 USD, not NFTs, just physical US dollars. You can actually play our game and have some fun. So I believe, Anthony made a couple other good points. He was talking about at that point, when you get to that kind of scale, we're going to be in Web 4. We don't know what that looks like. Ourselves at Undead Blocks and Wagyu Games, we also understand this. That's why we're not releasing our game with 8, 9, 10 developed maps. We just want one. We want people to engage. We want to bring them on this timeline. We want to show them, here is the model, here's our tokenomics, here's how we're able to generate revenue, and then use our player base to scale.
And so what do you think, like, from today, like, what are you going to work on right now or in the next coming weeks that like you got from these guys too talking about, like, hey, do I need to put out more trailer? What's your approach? Is there like a marketing spark that got from this? Is there something that from a CEO, you're like, okay, I'm having an emergency meeting with my team because after hearing this today, there's a big disconnect on some of like, hey, when some of this stuff is coming out, or hey, there's a big disconnect on what it costs to do all this. I think that's another thing, right? Like, we're hearing about cost and what it takes. What does it really take to build a AAA game, right? Like, what's the money and how much team do you need? So I'd love to hear what your thoughts.
It was telling to hear Michael talk. I mean, he's got 4 Unreal developers, and at Wagyu we have 30 Unity devs, many who are versed in Unreal itself in-house. Like, you're always going to be left hanging if you're going to have to scale up on an internal side. At least that's my personal opinion. I come back and I look at this conversation And I say there's a little bit too much infighting right now. I get it. They kind of put this whole thing on as a staged event. They wanted to rile up some sort of rivalry. But the misconception of the century, fellas, is that all these gaming studios are competing against each other. We're not. We're marketing to the same audience right now. If somebody like Mythical Gaming with Blancos, who we have a very good relationship, does well and they bring in millions of players, that's good for Wagyu Games and Undead Blocks, because those couple million players now have access to the other Web3 games. We need more games to be able to step up and grow outside of their circle. But just taking a look at what we need to do better at Wagyu is, I mean, we're moving mobile heavy. Like, you're looking at this and saying, okay, there are potentially hundreds of thousands of individuals who are playing these mobile shooters. Why can't we get into that? You see the massive community of Star Atlas and Illuvium. I think the live stream with Kagi hit, what, 600-700 at one time. But then you watch somebody like Ninja on Twitch, and he's racking 25-50K people instantly. Why? For the love of the game, for the entertainment, for the engagement. So it is going to be very hard for us to compete with somebody like Epic Games, who can provide such a large plethora of resources. But there is a huge opportunity, not just in PC and Mac, but mobile gaming, where we're able to onboard such a large audience and then teach them the benefits of owning their digital assets.
Yeah, and I'm glad you kind of spoke on that, right? Like, you know, talk to us about the simplicity it is, how to just get on your game, and what do you just need to do? Do you even connect to a wallet? I forgot if I even connected to a wallet.
So right now you do have to connect to a wallet. However, we will be implementing with, I would say, this upcoming update for Thursday before the tournament goes live, but the next update, we're looking to just have you do username, password, birthday, and just verify that you are a human. So go through like a CAPTCHA. And that is going to be a huge, it's no barrier to entry. Like, you're talking to these large executives who are talking about these events that they're running, and, you know, they're community engagement, but I think you should be able to reward your community with actual USD. Like, you're generating so much money in terms of revenue, whether it's through royalties or through a token raise. Why don't you actually start paying your players? That's what we're doing in Undead Blocks. It is free to play to the entire world. I'm going to be on Arcade, I think, with Jerry. Tomorrow night, we're going to go through a run of the new build and just show you guys what the tournament format looks like. But that's huge. Nobody's doing free and earn, and we know where the money's coming from. For example, we're doing a tournament with PokeStarter Gaming, which is PokeStarter's subarm. They're a large launch pad. They gave us all the money for this. That is awesome. Like, we're not draining our treasury. We're not selling tokens. We're generating revenue from the outside looking in, and we're using it to reward our player base. I'd like to see more games do the same.
I gotta ask you, like, how hard is it to develop and create these things that you're doing? I mean, like, you know, I hear from what Star Atlas and Illuvium are saying, you know, it's taking them some time and stuff like this, and you're accomplishing some things pretty quickly as well. And so I have to ask, like, you know, you tell us, like, where's the mindset on how fast you can create some of the stuff?
I think it's a little bit of verbal hand fighting with them. I think the scope is so large of what they're trying to do, right? You're building these immersive, quote unquote, metaverses, and they're shooting for such a high scope. And I think the reason why they do that is they can buy themselves that buffer and say, okay, this part of whatever the development process, whether it's UI, UX, or just straight environmental design, they can buy themselves time. With Undead Blocks, it's, you see the game, you physically are, like, we didn't even release a teaser, a cinematic teaser or trailer. I'm not spending $200,000 of my token holder and my NFT holder's money to release a cinematic trailer in this market, when we can use that money to hire more Unity developers to build the game. But I think from our perspective, it's just being realistic and responsible. I know Johnny can attest to this. He's been in a lot of my Twitter spaces. I'm doing these spaces every single day, boots on the ground. And you talk to Kieran and Michael, and I just don't see a lot of that engagement. Perhaps they're in their Discords and other means of social media that are communicating, but physically hearing somebody's voice and seeing the vision and seeing product updates, it provides such a peace of mind, especially in a bear market where people feel like the sky is falling. In a bear market, people are looking towards GameFi. That's why I always say we're in a crypto winter, but we're really in a GameFi summer, because as long as you have a playable game and you're able to reward your players, you have such a huge leg up. And I really want to encourage others to do the same.
Yeah, I agree. I think you hit on some quick dead points. I guess you know, in the interest of time, I know we got like 8 minutes left before this ends. You tell us, who do you want to be on a space with next? Is there somebody particular in the space that you would love to?
I would like to speak with Alex Becker. The Neo Tokyo group is very vocal, and I think they have a lot of ideas on where they'd like to have GameFi, and I agree with most of them, but I do believe that most people consider him to be the expert in terms of GameFi. I love a lot of his ideas about having microtransactions involved in economies. I think his tokenomics model is very solid, but I believe that community was promising a game at one point, and now they've pivoted towards just having the most, GameFi centric minds in their group. So I'd love to chat with them. I'd love to talk to Kieran and Michael as well. Look, these guys have built $1 million, six-figure companies and organizations, and they've done it through no fault, no benefit of a predecessor. They are really the industry leaders and they're trailblazers. I'd love to get to that point at some point, but I think our model at Undead Blocks, generate revenue, use it to pay players, is going to be iconic. We are going to be the ones remembered as the ones that brought this idea mainstream, injecting that outside liquidity into your model. Because if you don't know where the yield's coming from, frankly, you are the yield. And one thing I will say is you're talking about the development. I'm working, look, I was never a game developer by trade. I am the high finance individual. I had the idea, I had the concept, but I'm learning more about polygon management on the map, or what it takes to actually make changes to UI behind the scenes. Like, I believe there was a comment on the stream of how UI is built last. We built our UI first because I think our game is a lot more simple in terms of the gameplay loop, but there are different ways to do this kind of stuff. And the more we become educated about what it takes to be an Unreal developer, a Unity developer, we can have those conversations, and we can really keep those founders accountable for the promises and the actions that they take.
Well, I think two things. I think we could definitely get Alex Becker on a show with you. Maybe Kyle and me and Johnny will moderate it while you and Becker talk a little bit of GameFi. I think we could definitely make that happen. And I think you want to drop us some quick alpha on what you're building next and what to expect from Undead Blocks before we wrap this up.
Yeah, of course. So from our perspective, look, it's going to be an Undead summer. We are releasing the beta. The beta is fully functional. Our full game is slated to go live at the end of Q3. You're going to be able to earn every single day. We're not just going to have tournament format. You're going to be able to, in the game physically, like if you played COD Zombies, you get these drops like a nuke, insta-kill. You're just going to get dropped money. It might be $1, it might be $2, it might be 20 cents. It's going to be an algorithm, but we're going to reward players for their playtime. You're finally investing in sweat equity. And like I said, just doubling down on mobile, moving into the Undead mobile. It's something that we're really excited about. That's why we chose Unity in the first place. Look at how long it's taken these guys to develop an Unreal. We're tripling down on Unity because you're able to port over to mobile so much faster. We're going to have 4 fully developed games before anybody else in the industry can blink, especially with the Undead Block sequel that is going to be a PvP. We want to have that on mobile as well. So that is really our game, is first-person shooters. Wagyu Games is a first-person shooter blockchain studio. Really excited to see what other studios are coming out with, but we want to be the one-stop shop for people to kill zombies, earn crypto, or just kill each other, earn crypto, and have a great time doing it.
Yeah, and I'm gonna kill Johnny in that game. I think we agreed on that. And so let's wrap it up. I want to say thank you, Grant, for jumping on very last minute. But I saw you tweeting about with the conversation today. I said I gotta get Grant on here. I love your energy.
I appreciate it, Grant.
I love everything you always say. You're very well thought. Again, I think it's because you and I are ex-bankers, right? And we have the very similar thoughts in finance. And so thank you for coming on. Tomorrow night, I think you are doing a stream on this Twitch with Jerry, so I'm very excited for that. I'm excited to see Jerry. Hopefully he's been practicing. I hope he's been practicing. So we'll see tomorrow night. Johnny Hustle, thank you again for coming on to the show. We'll be on tomorrow night live on our spaces, so we'll tune into that one. And then, hey Kyle, man, I don't care what anybody says. I always tell you this: you are the greatest moderator. All right?
Love it, man.
So thank you for doing this with me, and until next time. And I think next time we'll try to do Becker, Grant, Hustle, and me and you. So we're good. Thank you, everybody, and tune into Arcade to Earn. Have a good night. Have a good day.